There we go. I forgot. So I had a power outage the other night, and anytime the streaming computer reboots, I have to go back and I have to re-manually map for some reason the microphone back in OBS. It just for some reason loses that idea that the microphone even exists. It's so annoying. Thank you, Samantha. What I was saying earlier is that I was double checking something real quick. So backing up, everything's been going great. Had a very, very relaxed, chill day, just spending time with the kids. And we're in our yearly snow lockdown in Texas. Now, snow's a bit misnomer here in Texas. What actually happens is we just get ice. We just get sleet and the roads turn to sheets of ice. There is no snow. It's just slick ice all over the place. So that's what I did today. I just chilled and hung out and worked on a little bit of stuff for getting ready to produce YouTube videos again, because that's something I've been trying to get back to doing. Now, if you're wondering why, because I was explaining it and talking to thin air, why do I have a John Hammond live stream up? Because he was doing a little bit of coding using OpenCode or Claude Code, one of the two. I think he was using OpenCode. And I wanted to see how he was actually doing this. I thought he was doing something called spec-driven design. And I wanted to learn more about that, considering that we're having to work on the design specifications for the post-exploitation agent. That's what I was wanting to think about. And you know what sucks is I think I probably lost the little doodle I did. I sure did. On how we were going to go through with this. That is a bummer. All right. Bummer there. I thought he... Let me ask this. So what I'm doing is I'm asking YouTube's little AI overview. I was like, does he use a design document for building software in this video? Let's see, he doesn't use a formal design document for building the software. He mentions wanting to establish a design and document philosophy document, basically where they can craft code together. Okay, so he hasn't done that. Let me look at something real quick. So let's look at, it's called SDD. It's like spec-driven design. I wanted to do a little bit of research into that real quick, because I thought this might be a good example just to get familiar with it, because I've got to go through and figure out how to use that to just basically understand it. That's what I want to do. What happened to Dark Reader? It started off as dark, and then it changed on me. There we go. Hey, Bobby. What is up, sir? So, also, I gotta tell you all this. One of the things I was tinkering with over the last 2 days is Daniel... Hold on. I can't type. Daniel Miesler, personal AI infrastructure project. So I've actually been messing around with this the last couple of days. I set it up in a dedicated WSL container, and it's a pretty cool project in here. I've been very impressed about how well it's done. So I had gone through and I had used Claude Code to build a couple of things to help with my video production pipeline. And it's always been kind of just patchwork a little bit. So then finally I went through and I was like, okay, let me go see. I want to just play with this. I spun it up. I was like, what do I have it do? I was like, okay, let me see how well it replicates what I did. It did a way better job. It did a pretty sick job. So it's been interesting to play around with. I've been enjoying it. But I don't want to give up coding. I like doing coding. I want to understand how the bips and the bobs work. That's what gets me paid. So I still want to. So we're going to keep coding on HackBot because I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun, and thinking through the problems and solving them is a lot of fun. And then teaching it how to do those problems is a lot of fun. But one thing I wanted to look at for two reasons. One, spec-driven design development. We read the article last week as questionable as some of the conclusions were that they were having about from Checkpoint about the Void Link malware kit. But the development process was actually pretty interesting. So that was an interesting part that they had found as part of that. So there's two reasons why I want to go through this. One is understand the process a little bit better. And two is understand the process better for, well, actually, I take it back. There's the main reason that I want to understand this better for two reasons. One is for my own personal, whenever I'm going through and I'm writing some code to do something. And two, for whenever I want to decide specifications for some kind of AI agent to go code something for me. Let's see. So I'm just skimming through this real quick. This guy's talking about, yeah, that's not surprising at all considering the number of outages we've seen. 25% of Y Combinator's winter 2025 cohort have code bases that are 95% AI generated. I'm not surprised by that. I think doing AI generated things for your own purposes, for code that you're going to run in-house or maybe just share for people to run individually, is not such a bad thing. However, there are so many legalities and there's so many requirements of how you have to handle data and take care of it. For example, if I ever had to do something that had to be, like, say, GDPR compliant, I don't know if I would trust an LLM to go write that code for me. However, that's probably going to change in like 6 months because it actually is getting pretty fast. In fact, I saw another funny video. It was, who was it? It was the Primogen talking about he had a code base he had worked on, and it was his neat, bespoke, handcrafted code. And then he had, I think, Claude Code come through and do like a security analysis of it. I don't know what exactly he used, what kind of skills or plugins or whatever. But when he did that, he was crushed because he found, or that system found like 15 bugs in the code. And he thought, this is horrible. I've done like so much. I thought of this. And then as he started going through and like triaging all the issues, he found out they were all trash. They were edge cases that were handled by basically data crafting before it ever reached that piece of code. So, is it going to be replacing coders? No. But should it be enhancing coders? Absolutely. And that's what I've been saying all along. So let me see what this guy says about spec-driven design. Let's see. So while we examine what vibe coding truly means, we realize that it lets us forget that code even exists. So the main idea is simple. Instead of defining goals as code, we express in plain natural language. So thanks to language models, even people without a deep technical knowledge can bring their ideas to life. That's dangerous. That's dangerous. Because yes, you can do an idea. Nobody's ever had a problem with that. But doing an idea properly and doing it securely is a big deal. Anyway, the approach typically works only for prototypes. Production-ready code shouldn't just look cool. It needs to be bug-free, architecturally sound, secure, and functional. Okay, good. I'm glad I mentioned that. So to achieve this, developers must define custom instructions with various rules, add MCP servers, and write precise prompts that provide clear guardrails for the language model. True. Hey, Band, what's up, brother? Happy Saturday, my dude. Let's see. All right, so this is where spec-driven design comes in. So instead of coding first and documenting later, SDD begins with defining a specification, which serves as a contract for how your code should behave and become the source of truth that your tool and agents use to generate, test, and validate code. So the result is less guesswork with fewer surprises and higher quality code. So even this, I mean, I get this, right? I'll be straight up with you. The last week I have been vibe coding some stuff for internal work use, right? It's not stuff that has to be hyper secure. It needs to have very basic security, but that's usually amounts to making sure we're only sending data to approved processing systems that are approved to handle that data and using TLS. That's usually where the security has to stop there. And so I've been through and I built, gosh, what did I build over the week? I built a bootstrapping system for my internal users to be able to go through and basically get up and running on a toolkit. Built an MCP server for something I can't talk about yet. And also then built a way for our operators, our red teamers and penetration testers to interact more efficiently with our documentation system. It's just bam, bam, bam. And it's stuff where the code doesn't need to look great and sexy and, oh, this is the most bespoke, handcrafted, artisanal, imported from Sweden code. It's just code that needs to have basic security features and work. Yeah, 10x developer strimmer. Dude, I've been given 2 weeks of what's called service improvement to work on Band, which is you're allowed to work on internal projects to help basically improve the quality of life for everybody. And I am making the most of those 2 weeks. I probably worked more hours last week than I did well, actually, I'll take that back. I have just worked a buttload of hours the last week. I worked a lot the week before doing a bunch of reporting stuff. But no, man, and this isn't stuff that I ever really intend to go out to the public also. I understand exactly what the scope of this is. This is internal code that is supposed to be generated by Claude Code and maintained by Claude Code with very strict details to it. Another thing is I haven't been going into it and just being like, I want do X, make thing do X. No, I tell it, it's like, hey, I give it kind of like design specifications, but nothing like this. And also, as I think about the post-exploitation agent in HackBot, it's going to have so many features and so many places where it has to go interact. I think this would be a great thing to do in two ways. One, to help with whenever I'm doing AI development, and two, whenever I'm doing this more complex, handcrafted code. I got a few things I have to work on for quality of life. Dude, I'm trying to improve the quality of life around reporting. And as well as like gathering information and evidences, making that as clear cut and simple as possible. And I forgot one other thing. I did a huge update to another system that now the guys that maintain that and are intimately familiar with the code are going to go through and review. So it's kind of a test case because one, if it works, it's going to be huge. It's going to be amazingly helpful for the entire team. And two, if it doesn't work, we're going to figure out exactly how badly some of this vibe code is going to clash with some of the other stuff in there. So it's a whole week of experiments, just been nailing it, having fun. I have been enjoying it so much that I actually upped my Claude subscription from the Pro to the Max because I can do so much of this stuff. It's been great. Anyway, so this isn't just for helping with that side, it's for helping for understand the manual process. I'm kind of looking at the approach for some of these coding agents as how your math teacher taught you whenever you were learning math, right? You had to do it by hand, you had to learn how to work through it, and then you got to use the calculator after you understand the individual steps. And that's the approach that I'm taking to it. You need to build up to it instead of just jumping in the deep end. It's like, yay, the calculator told me the integral of this is blah, but you have no fucking clue what that means. I've been doing so much better on swearing. By the way, over on Discord, since the swear jar did break the 100 mark, I did post a donation I made to a GoFundMe for one of the guys from Hack Smarter, Tyler Ramsby's group, his son was just diagnosed with a form of cancer. So it's over in the general channel if you look for it up on the Discord. But yeah, so I went and that's where the donation went to for the swear jar. Vibe code Rust, get out of here. You're banned. Go. I mean, you are banned, but no, I mean the verb, not the noun. You're banned. I think that's the right approach. You need to learn how things work and then vibe code the tedious parts, but still spot check it for correctness. Yeah, exactly. Dude, so I'll give you one example I did banned was, one of the things I didn't like was it's a pain sometimes to go through and script out custom bespoke code whenever I need to just go download a huge number of files when I'm rifling through a company's file shares. Whether that be, in this case, it was SMB, right? I had Claude Code literally go make an update to where I could do recursive downloads that preserved the entire directory structure from an SMB share. And it downloaded it, and then it would take that and it would upload it to a Nemesis server and go read through it. And did that in just a matter of minutes. I was able to get through so many files and find so much information that my client just had basically laying out on their internal network for anybody to go get. Write me wget for SMB. That'd be pretty cool. I mean, you could do that. You can do that with SMB client. Call it SMB get. All right, so let me think about this right here. So for spec-driven design, you divides development into 4 distinct phases. So each has a goal and an outcome. So through the phases, in this case, we're talking about for AI assistance, but I want to do this by hand. So our responsibility is to articulate our goal in natural language. The goal that's eventually generated is merely the product of these clear specifications. So number one is we need to specify. So you provide a high-level description of what you're building and why. So when the coding agent generates a detailed specification, this isn't about a technical stack or application design. It's about the user's journey, experiences, and the success criteria. So you'll define who will use your product, what problem it solves for them, and how they'll interact with it, and what outcomes matter most. So think of it as a mapping the desires, the user experiences, while letting the code agent elaborate on the details. So that specification becomes a living document. I hate that term, but I understand it. That evolves as you gain deeper insight into what your users needs. In my opinion, this is kind of a BS way to do it. Like, spec-driven design is fine, but expecting the AI to do it all for you is not realistic. I think if you can come through and basically do like software architecture, I think it would work out fine. And if you're building smaller pieces, that's good. I'll tell you one area that's actually really good at is front-end design. For some reason, man, I have a theory about this. I think that it's, for some reason, the AIs are ridiculously good at React. And I think the reason for that is because React is so freaking complex that there's been so many neat examples of how do X, here's how do X, because it's been there. And it's just, people couldn't understand it. So there's so many examples of X in, Y out that it just made the perfect training set for the language models. Yeah. In my opinion, I'd do a spec, but have it break down the problem and then have the AI do the small, tedious parts. That's kind of what the approach I'm thinking about. I'm playing with it. I'm just tinkering with it a lot. If you do it the other way, you'll run into a mess of time and waste and anything else. Yeah, exactly. I think one of the other things where it works out really well, Band, is if you've got code that was well structured and well written, and it's a nice maintainable code base that's well documented, and then you have something like Claude Code come in and look at it, examine it, and then do feature enhancements. I think that works out pretty well because it already has examples of how you've done everything to go through and feed off like, oh, this is the design pattern. They're using GraphQL in this way. Yeah. And so the reason I think that, like I said, that works so well is because it has patterns to follow. Okay, so this is actually pretty straightforward. So we specify kind of where we want each piece to be, plan. So this is the part where you get technical. So you'll provide the coding agent with the desired tech stack, architecture, and constraints, and it will generate a comprehensive tech plan. If your company has standardized techs, specify them. Detailed integrations with legacy systems and compliance requirements. Yeah, all you got to do is just say, hey, make it GDPR requirement. You're good. And you're also going to look at performance targets that you need to meet. Actually, this is a big one because one of the systems I was doing the update to, excuse me. One of the systems I was doing an update to is a multi-user environment. So we had to go make sure that what Claude Code had generated wasn't going to be doing like all these extraneous left open dangling database connections. So that was one of the things we had to go through and take a look at in here. So if you understand the code base or understand those different pieces of the software architecture, that would be a constraint you'd want to put in there. Let's see. You can also request multiple plan variations to compare different approaches. Oh, that's a good idea. Being that it's a probabilistic system, it works great. And by making your internal documentation available to the coding agent, it can directly incorporate your architecture patterns and standards into the plan. And that's what I was talking about. If you have documented standards, provide that to the language model. It's not going to use it every step of the way. It's going to use it to derive instructions to incorporate later. Let's see. So basically, think of it like setting the rules before you play the game. Exactly. All right, that might be hard. I'm glad I don't have an AI agent writing this stuff for HackBot because I don't have any coding specifications. I have them in my head and kind of what I think it works. But let's see. So for the task, this is where it transforms the spec into actual generation by actual work by generating small reviewable chunks that each address a specific component. So each task should be implemented and testable in isolation. Now the question is, how it says each task should be. So the question is, how big do you make the task? I'm guessing that's going to be basically by feeling it out. That allowed the coding agent to validate what it means to focus, similar to test-driven specifications. Let's see. So similar to a test-driven development process, rather than broad directives like build authentication, you receive precise tasks such as create a user registration endpoint and validates email format, things like that. Let's see. And then the last thing is you implement it. Okay. Ooh, what is this? SpecKit can be installed in 2 different ways. Hold on. What is this? A GitHub SpecKit. So since following STD requires defining extensive prose text, including specifications like tech stacks and test cases, GitHub released an open source CLI called SpecKit to simplify creating the required files. Let's see. Continuous rapid development. Okay, how does this work? Maybe we can play with this tonight, and then we can define, hey, this is what the spec for the post-exploitation agent should be. Hello, fellow kids. What's up, hats? How you doing, man? Happy Saturday. Everyone has a plan till they get punched in the mouth. Word. Dude, do I get that? Let's see. So SpecKit can be installed in a couple different ways. You can use UVX or Python or NPX. Okay. Yeah, UVX. Oh, it'll even let you use Claude code for this. Oh, will it? Fascinating. Maybe I'll do that. That's cool. Maybe we'll go fire this up a little bit and test it out. Maybe not. I don't know. I think I'd rather just do it completely by hand. This guy's making a Pokédex. Which is funny because, man, the kids have finally... They're watching the old Pokemon. Hold on. When did, Pokemon, cartoon released in US? When was that? When was the US release date? Okay, so it was around 1998. That's what I thought. I thought it was about when I went into high school. I was trying to explain to my kids because they're watching the old Pokemon now. And I had to warn my son, I was like, don't try to memorize them all, kid. He's like, but there's 150 of them. I was like, there were 150 of them in 1998, dude. When it first came out when I was young. There's so many more now. What about, do they have a plan after getting punched in the balls? I doubt it, unicorn. I got punched in the mouth, I still had a plan. And then he punched me in the balls.
Incoming transmission from Marano Gumby. Sorry, emulator just woke up.
No, you're all good, Gumby. Dude, I went and got like a 2.5 hour nap today. Because I've been going to bed at like 2 in the morning all this week, so. You started tech school in 98? I was a... What was I? I was a freshman in high school in 98, yeah. Yep, because I graduated in 2002. Hey, Robo. No, I have not ventured out into the ice. No. I have looked at it longingly from afar, and then decided no. Let's see. That's pretty cool, but I think I want to find something else for this. Let me see. Spec-driven design worksheet. Let's see if I can find just I thought this was like a GitHub repo at first when I looked at it. No, I don't want to do that. I mean, here's SpecKit. We could try that. Scuffed Chungus. What's up, man? Thanks for coming online. Hope you're having a wonderful Saturday. 2002, y'all must be old. Dude, you see the gray, right? You see the gray? Yeah. Yeah. I just turned 42, so yeah. Yep. You're also 42. Nice, man. Make sure and tell everybody, ask those questions while they can, because it is the rare opportunity. It's the rare opportunity to answer all the questions to life, the universe, and everything. You currently have, if you want to ask them, you have 362 more days. All right, I tell you what, let me take a look at Spec Kit here. Maybe we'll spin this up and just give it a whirl. Open source toolkit that allows you to focus on production scenarios and predictable outcomes instead of vibe coding every piece from scratch. I mean, we do already have UV installed on the dev server. Oh, I got to make sure the dev server came back up. I did have a power outage. I had to hard cycle the server at the house. That was annoying. It is back up. I don't think Chasm VNC came up, though. Yeah, I did not. Let me see here. What was that? Let me see if I can just start it up this way. Reconnect. Hey, it worked the first time. Sweet. Sometimes I just have to go rerun the VNC like 30 times to get it to come up. Okay, cool. I'll tell you what, let's rename this window. Let's call this Spec Kit. And let's go test it out. Let's go play with it a little bit. Because I don't think anybody's doing specs by hand, it looks like. Everybody's like, hey, just do Spec Kit, bro. We'll let that go install as a tool. Let's see. So we can initialize a new project. Let's do that. We'll do it like just playing with that.
Incoming transmission from Moreno Gumby. What are you doing?
What are you doing, step bro? So what we're doing is we're kind of tinkering with the idea of spec-driven design. And one of the things that we're just reading about before you came on, Gumby, was this tool that GitHub put out called Spec Kit, which is supposed to have like a kind of like AI assistance to help you run through it. So I was hoping to like just do it by hand, but I was like, you know what? Let's go download this and play with it. We'll see what it does. Because I was thinking of making a spec for the post-exploitation agent because it's going to have so many pieces that it's going to have to go interact with in there. Use the language model to write your spec for your language model. Dude, that's like, I actually don't think that's a horrible idea. Simply because I've had the language models write prompts to do stuff for other language models. I got about the same beard as you, just have hair on my head. Dude, I know. Actually, you probably can't see it on the camera, but my head's looking a little bit like a chia pet because my razor broke. I just got a replacement head for the razor. GitHub's Trend Micro Cybertron. Hold on, let me go look at that real quick. Trend Micro Cybertron. Let's go look at it. Is this it? What is this? Cloud Risk Assessment Agent Repository document provides instructions on how to set up and run the Cloud Risk Assessment tool. I don't think this is the one you're probably talking about. Oh, Cybertron, here we go. It was the second link down. I'm an idiot. Here we go. Did it take me to the same link? They both took me to the same link. Hold on. What? What is this tomfoolery? All right, let me just go look for it in their repo list here. Oh, that is the right one. Okay. Trend Cybertron. Ooh. Let's see. So this is Trend Cybertron Cloud Risk Assessment Agent Project. Open source initiative leveraging Trend Micro's Cybertron AI model and in the NIM catalog. This project is managed by the community, and while contributors may offer support, availability can vary. Please provide detailed information about your environment and steps to reproduce your issue when you open any GitHub issues. Okay. So what is it? What do? Let's see. So it looks like it's requiring some kind of open AI key, but For the most part, most APIs are open AI compatible. So if you had something like a light LLM proxy go into, what is that? Like Open Router, or heck, you could actually probably even just, I think you could just put your Open Router data in here and tell it what model to use. Llama Primus merged. Ooh, interesting. That does look interesting. Let me save that. Let's see. I thought I had... I guess I'll throw that over in Azure Cloud Tools. We'll put it in the AI machine learning list too. That looks interesting. So wait, are they using... So in this case, they're talking about... Did they actually create an AI model for this, though? Because this looks like it's the agent. But hold on. They mentioned here... So let me look at the actual... Let me see if I can find the actual AI model. Let's go look at it. Oh, that's why I hadn't seen this. It came out about the time I wasn't doing the news streams. I stopped for several months. What I want to know is, like, do they have a link to it over on... Like, do they have a Hugging Face link to it? Oh, yeah, here we go. Let me look at the... I want to look at what they've got up in Hugging Face real quick. Back this out just a little bit. So Trend Cybertron is an advanced cybersecurity AI system and agent that integrates cybersecurity specialized large language models with Trend Micro's industry-leading knowledge and threat intelligence. Designed to drive proactive security, it enables organizations to predict risk, analyze attack vectors, and automate threat mitigation. Cool. So in particular, we've leveraged the same technology and foundation to develop an open source project, Primus, which includes a comprehensive set of data sets and trained cybersecurity language models, all available for Primus. Ooh, so they have an 8B and a 7DB. Nice. Okay, that's what they were referencing, because here in their example configuration, they mentioned Llama Primus merged. Question is, where are you going to run it? Like, are you running this, like, maybe running it in Ollama or something else like that? It looks pretty cool. Oh, they have a pre-built... Hold on, do they have a Docker container for it? Let's see. Ooh, they do. They got a Docker Compose. It's funny that, I mean, the Compose is one thing in here, but still. Very cool. So hold on, where's the doc? What is it using in here? Agent build dot. So where's the Docker file? Let me look at the Docker file. See what they're doing. So they're running it from Slim. They're gonna run whatever this repository is. Aqua Security Trivi. What is that? I hadn't seen this one either. So Trivi is a comprehensive and versatile security scanner. Has scanners that look for security issues and targets where you can find issues for, let's see, container, file system, Git repositories. Okay. Looks like this is more for looking at like software-defined networks and tech stacks like Kubernetes, stuff that's on disk. Interesting. Okay, so they're bringing that in. So let me go look at this entry point. So what are they doing with this in here? Well, maybe I didn't see it in here, but looks pretty cool. I have to go tinker around with that. Very neat. I especially like I find it really interesting. The Grom, that it's using that they developed their own AI model. I'm surprised. I'm not surprised I missed it. Surprised I hadn't heard more about it, just because I saw when it came out. Right, this came out May of 27. I think I hadn't started doing the Wednesday night news streams where this would have come into like my focus until I think June this year, because we stopped for a while in there. But that looks really cool. I'm gonna have to tinker around with that if I can ever find the time at work. Oh yeah. Not sponsored by Jocko yet. Let's see. So you can dump your code and files, etc., into the model. Like I said, I think it looks cool. I really do think that there's going to be a huge market for those small language models in the future. The ones that are like sub 10 billion parameters, maybe even some that are like sub 5 billion parameters, but they're just hyper focused and specialized. I think there's going to be a huge benefit to those. All right, let me go try this. Spec kit should already be installed here. Oh, I got to figure out how to log into it. Is that the command specify? Where did my browser go? It disappeared on me. There it is. Create a new project. All right, let me just see what this does. Specify init postx agent. Let me see what it does. Choose your coding assistant. Okay. So that's cool that you have a lot of different options in here. I guess let's do Claude. And choose script type. Shell. Why not? Let's do that. Some agents may store credentials, auth tokens, or other identifying private artifacts in the agent folder within your project. Consider using a .claude or part of it or adding that to your gitignore to prevent accidental credential leakage. Okay. Well, let's go cd over to postx. Actually, hold on. Let me make a note of this real quick. Let me grab this real quick here. Just gonna grab the whole thing. This way I can keep a note on it. Let's go see what it does here. Yeah, we'll spin up some Claude here. All right. Well, let's take a look here. So first thing it was telling us to do is, let me bring up these notes here. So it wants me to, come back. This is just a demo. We're not going to be coding anything with this. I just want to see what it comes up with. So it said, just make this a little bit cleaner here. So start use spec kit, got constitution, establish your principles. Okay, let's try that. Spec kit constitution. Sure. And so I'm guessing what it's probably going to do is it's going to walk me through like how to work through this. Explore the repository to understand. Yeah, there's nothing in here, dude. It's blank. Hey, Monkey, what's up, dude? DFW keeps messing with me. Got super delayed Thursday. Oh, rip, man. Oh, Grom, I didn't hear the alert for the follow. Thanks, man. We call that popping a shell. You have popped your first shell. You never forget your first shell. Let's see. Project name. Yeah. Postx agent. Purpose. Security tool development. Post-exploitation, penetration testing, and red team operations. Automation agent for tasks and automations. Yeah, sure, why not? Well, it's guessing kind of what we're guessing by postx agent. Principles. Minimal set covering essential rules. 5 principles. Standard coverage for all details. Comprehensive governance framework. Okay, you know what? We'll split the difference there. We'll go to 5. What do we want to do here? What development practices are non-negotiable? Hang on, I got to change something on this real quick. The color scheme in here is driving me bananas. B-A-N-A-N-A-S. Let me see. Change the palette here. Did that change it? It didn't change it. Hold on. There's supposed to be other palettes in here. Yes. We'll change that here. Ugh. Ugh. That is suboptimal. No, I need to change that. All right, fine. Yeah, do putty. But this one, I need it to be like less of a dark blue. No, that's not going to work. I want you to be right about mirror. There we go. Because that dark blue on there, I just can't reconnect. Oh, there we go. That's a little bit better. All right, now I can actually read the blues over the blacks. All right. So what do I want to do? Tests will be written before implementation. Security first. Modularity. All features should be self-contained modules. All public APIs must be documented. I don't know if this is going to work for us, but I'm going to play around with it anyway. Let's see what we can do. I want to see if this will actually help with it. Sure, we'll go with modularity. Submit. I want to see what it does. This is probably, just by looking at how it's doing, it looks like this is wanting to start an entirely new project. And I don't want it to, I don't want to give it a copy of HackBot to have it start churning on. It's a long time since I popped my first Dex server. I sent a funny one over in Discord. Hang on, let me bring this up real quick. See if I can find it real fast. Yeah, here we go. There we go. This one cracked me up. I receive a interpreter session. You receive a... Yeah, this one cracked me up. I do love a good interpreter meme. Yeah, go ahead and ratify the Constitution. We're making a Constitution. We're building the United States of post-exploitation. Let me go look at something real quick here. Let's see. I think I installed VS Code in here. Yeah. Let me just go open that directory up. Let's see. Debian, where's PostX? There we go. Open. Yeah, I trust the author. It's me. It's me, Mario. Let's see. Was this the Constitution we just wrote? I think so. All right. Let's see how this looks. Let me put this over here. All right, so let's see what it came up with for this. Core principles.
Incoming transmission from Mariano Gumby. Got to love a good buffer overflow, Daddy Blaise.
Keep your minds out of the gutter. But I do enjoy overflowing a good buffer. Just saying. Let's see. So what did it come up with from answering just those few questions right here? So modular architecture. Every capability must be implemented as a self-contained, independently deployable module. Modules must not have circular dependencies. Modules must define explicit interfaces for input and output. They must independently be testable without requiring other modules. Shared functionality must be extracted to a dedicated core or common module, and module boundaries must align with security domains. Post-exploitation tools require surgical precision. Yeah, baby. Operators must be able to deploy only the capabilities needed for specific engagements, minimize footprint, and detection risks. Number 2, operational security. All code must be written with operational security, OPSEC, as primary considerations. Network communications must support encryption and proxy chains. That would be, most protocols do, but if I find an open FTP server, there's no encryption there. All operations must support configurable logging levels. Memory resident operations should be preferred over disk-based operations. Artifacts must be cleanable, so every module creates artifacts that must provide cleanup. Actually, that's pretty handy too, because cleanup, keeping track of cleanup is a pain. Timestamps and identifiable patterns must be configurable or removable. Well, timestamps you wouldn't want to remove, because you gotta think, if you're doing this and you're telling your client, let's say I'm on a penetration test and in some mythical land I was using this, I want the timestamps in there because I want them to be able to go through and do a post, like an after action assessment to it, like a post-mortem of the events that happened with very strict timestamps, typically all in one time zone, just for sake of simplicity, put everything in UTC. Then when they need to translate it, they can just have the translation done once at whoever's processing it. But no, you want that in there because you want your client to be, okay, where was the gap that we missed? We should have detected X activity. We didn't detect nothing. Why did we not detect it? Or did we detect it and we marked it as a false positive? Or did we detect it, but it didn't meet the threshold of response? There's various levels in there they've got to go through and look at to be like, where did the failure happen? Let's see. What about this? Defense-aware design. Code must anticipate and handle defensive measures gracefully. Oh, you're getting ballsy. All operations must implement timeouts and retry logic, and failures must not crash the agent or expose stack traces. Ooh.
Incoming transmission from Mariano Gumby. You like buffer overflow like I like 9/11 joke. No one see them coming until it already on top of them.
Bro. You with the 9/11 jokes. Timestamps have always been my nemesis. How can you verify all the log files are following the same NTP server and are not, if they're out of sync? Yeah, I get that too. Typically, for us, obviously we're getting it as close as possible, not down to like the millisecond, Grom, but we'll get them down to the point where it is hopefully to the second accuracy. That should be enough for them to narrow down the activity we were doing. Let's see. Modules must handle permission denied, access blocked, and EDR interference. Graceful degradation must be implemented where full capacity is blocked. Error messages must be sanitized to avoid information leakage. So the rationale is the target environments have active defenses, robust error handling, yada yada yada. Well, that's assuming a lot. What about cross-platform compatibility? Modules should support multiple target platforms where technically feasible, including Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. Platform-specific implementations must share a common interface. Unsupported platforms must return clear, non-implemented errors. Platform detection must be reliable, yada yada. All right, minimal dependencies. Standard libraries should be preferred over third-party packages. Each dependency must be justified in the code comments or documentation. It must not introduce unnecessary network calls or telemetry. It's funny because you say that, but it might be reasonable to go like maybe import Impacket to do some of this stuff, but Impacket is very well signatured, and stuff like, Falcon will just squash it when it sees it. And not see the program itself, actually observing the network traffic, like the network interactions. Security standards, input validation, security defaults, audit trail, memory safety. It's like memory safety. We're going to do this in Python. In an enterprise environment, trying to align time is a pain in a body part of your choosing. I've been there, man. So the first 5 years of my IT career, so from about 2010 to about 2015, I was doing kind of like help desk and server administration and taking care of like a whole slew of things. It was very jack of all trades. It was everything from, because I worked in a college networking lab, and we had a pretty big infrastructure for a college lab. We had servers, we had remote access labs, we had 30, or no, 50 some odd racks in the lab that had to be maintained and interconnected. And I took care of everything in between.
Incoming transmission from Marano Gumby. I don't trust stairs. They are always up to something.
Yeah, I don't trust stairs because they always got me tripping. Hey. Let's see. What do we do here for the development workflow? So, all changes must be reviewed by at least one maintainer. Security sensitive changes must include threat model considerations. Module boundary changes require architectural review. Ooh. Quality gates. All tests must pass before and merge. Static analysis must report no critical high findings. Let's see. Code coverage. Actually, this would be kind of funny to see in action because I've seen times where so the system I was working on last week doing like the quality of life improvement, I actually went through and since it was all a vibe coded update to the platform, I went through and I had some other static code analysis. The ones from Trailopits, they just put out a whole bunch to work with Claude Code. So I brought those down and I had it run against it and I identified a high severity finding. The kicker was that you had to know how to guess a UUID. So good luck there. I've been doing incident response and red teaming since dinosaurs roamed the planet. In 2018 is when I went into offensive security. However, I've been doing hood rat stuff with computers since the 2nd grade. So back whenever it was freaking like CompuServe, back then. And I took the OSCP the first time when it was still pen testing with Backtrack before Kali, right? I did that in 2010. But never sat for the exam. Finally went back through and actually finished the exam in like 2018, 2019, I forget. I think it was 2018. And yeah, so been doing it for a minute. Been doing it professionally for going on almost 8 years now. It'll be 8 years in March. And I remember very specifically when that happened because major life events happened at the same time. Let's see. What else we got here? Governance, amendment process, compliance, versioning policy. Okay. I mean, this is interesting. Let's go see what step 2 does for it, for planning out our post. I want to see how useful this is actually going to be for like planning out our post exploitation agent. Okay. So now we're going to do the specify command. So let's try that. So we'll do specify. Let's see what you want me to specify. Okay, so what feature would you like to specify? Please describe it. Command and control, credential harvesting, persistence mechanisms, lateral movement. Let's see. We'll do, actually, what about command and control? I wonder if we could have it say, hey, let's get some specifications on how we're going to interact with Mythic C2. Because that's the big thing, right? So let's review this real quick. So the idea of the post-exploitation agent is, come over here. So, pest. For the post-ex agent, what we're looking at is it has three main jobs here. The first one is going to be going from the initial access exploit and then upgrading that to a C2 connection in Mythic. So that's the first task we're going to handle in here, into Mythic. The next one we're going to handle is using the C2 and then escalating privileges. So then we're going to do privesc in here. So privilege escalation, just like this. Actually, I guess it's really those two, because we're not worried about capturing the flags in these. Sure, we'll go get them for fun. But once we do the privesc, I'm going to leave it up to the user to go get it. It's not going to go auto-grab flags. And I'll tell you why. I know some companies that internally have been working on offensive security agents, and the idea is for them to go find a flag, right? And I've seen those AI agents go take like super lazy approaches where it literally starts like catting every file or grepping every file in the file system for what is essentially an MD5 hash. So I was like, we're going to avoid that. We don't want it to do anything. We want it to have a very clear understanding of, hey, once you land on the box, your job is then to escalate to root or system level permissions. So we'll say root or system in here. I guess there technically could be a third one, which would be facilitating lateral movement. Because eventually, HackBot should be able to work on multi-box CTF. So something like Game of Active Directory, right? Right now we're using it on a single target. That's fine. But I guess really these would be, the primary would be upgrading to Mythic. This is going to be the chonky part. And then, well, actually doing the Privest is going to be the chonky part too, because we're going to have to give it ways to start looking for certain activities to look at in this system. For example, the one we're doing with RootMe is it's going to do a SUID binary in there. So Python is set as a SUID binary. It's super simple when it starts looking for it. So we're going to start looking at those. So Privest actually is going to bust up into two areas in here because we're going to have Linux, and then we're also going to have Windows in here. So we have Linux and Windows privilege escalation in here. So yeah. Which makes sense because I put root and system in there. But that's where we're going to go. It's like, hey, where are we going to go with this? Let me go see. Let's walk through this. We can actually, if I decide that we want to do something different in here, we can do that. Let's see. Lateral movement, persistence. Let's do command and control. Are you going to try and build me a new C2? Because that'd be awesome. Sure, you can fetch everything that's remote. There's nothing to fetch. This is not a Git repo. This is all local. This will be feature number 1. Short tail will be C2 communications. Okay. Create new feature. So what does this create new? Hold on. I want to look at it. I'm not letting it go through and Ralph Wiggum this. I want to see what it's actually doing. So it says we're going to create a new feature, which is a JSON number 1 short name, C2 communications, command and control communication, beaconing, and task distribution. So let me go look at this. This is in specify scripts bash create new feature. Let's go look at that real quick. This is a kind of a cool system in here. Let's see, scripts, create new feature. So what is this going to do here? What was the arguments we sent to it? JSON number 1 and short name.
Incoming transmission from Marano Gumby. What do you get when you cross-painted performance artists with a wireless connection? Blue Man Tooth.
The Blue Man Tooth. Love it. Stock, so speaking of Blue Man Group, because I always associate them with Las Vegas. They're always playing every time I had been there for DEF CON or Black Hat. Sock really wants to go to Vegas, but I keep trying to warn her. I was like, honey, you're not going to like Vegas. Vegas is everything you don't like. It's crowded. You don't like people. It's loud, and you don't like loud noises. It's bright, flashy lights, and you hate that. There's smoke. Everybody smokes everywhere, and you're a delicate little flower, and you don't like smoking. And I was like, that's pretty much what there is. And it's hot. That's like, it's all the things you don't like just rolled into one city. Hey, Palmer, what's up, man? The food's good. That's the only reason I go. I get that. I think if she ever wants to go with me, I was like, hey, honey, pretty much the only thing you're going to be doing if you go with me is you're going to be spending all day by yourself, probably hanging out by the pool, which she might actually like. She could just read a book. That'd be fine. And then we'll go find some place to have dinner or maybe catch a show in the evening. I was like, but that's about all there is to do in Vegas for her. Oh, the fifth thing I remember now, she doesn't like gambling. I was like, babe, you're 5 for 5. You're 0 for 5 in here. I was like, you're done. So what is this going to do after it spits this out? Looks like it's just making a document right here. Actually, it's checking the existing branches. So it looks like what this is doing is it's just spitting out a JSON file to basically, this is the specification for the new tool that we're building. So yeah, I'm gonna let this script run. Well, let me look at this real quick. So it makes a new branch. It does make a new feature branch for it. It says, here's the spec file, which is going to be in here, the specs, and then feature number 1. What do we do after this one? Let me see. This is actually kind of interesting. So the next thing would be to plan. So create a implementation plan. All right. The Gold Star Pond or the Dam or the Chocolate Factory or Old Vegas is pretty cool. I have been to Hoover Dam one time. It was really cool. I went as a kid with my dad.
Incoming transmission from Marano
Oh,
Gumby.
God.
Why did the polar bear call tech support? His screen was frozen.
Poor polar bear. You should go to the Chaos Computer or Communications Congress in Germany. So I've had my last trip for DEF CON. CCC is 100 times better with the media and 20,000 attendees. Oh, nice. I see it all the time. And I'm always worried because I don't speak any language other than English and bad English. I speak the tiniest amount of Spanish. And I would probably do okay if my vocabulary was better, but I don't have a very expansive Spanish vocabulary. So I'm always concerned about like traveling to other countries. We're going to let this write this file and then we're going to go check it out. So all this stuff is going to be in our specs directory, right? Meow. Go ahead. Everyone in Germany does speak English, though? Okay. You should check the media link. Oh, Grom, links are allowed in chat. So, I mean, if you've got something, don't worry about defanging it. I'm trying to copy it out of the chat real quick. I don't know if it'll let me. Hang on. Here we go. $39C3 power cycles. Oh, this just happened. Okay, because this just happened in December. I see. I forget when the last one was going on. Was this the one? Oh, this is the one where the pink Power Ranger went and deleted that, like, that dating site. That was funny. Acidification resistant internet. Oh, that's funny. This was slightly before my time. I never had the ones where, like, you actually had to take the phone off the hook and put it on there. I had, like, I think the first modem that I used personally was like a 56K. Security nightmares. Okay, I'll have to go look at this again. Because actually, you just gave me an idea of something I might want to go try for it. Drisky, what's up, man? Happy Saturday, dude. All the talks are translated to English on the fly. Oh, that's sick. That is really cool. I wish. So I know a lot of people, though, like, hey, if I had a superpower, I'd want, like, strength or ability to fly or turn invisible or something. No, I would like to have the all speak. If I could have something, I think the all speak would be freaking sweet. Being able to talk to people and, like, truly understand them without a language barrier would be freaking cool. Tower of Babel, eat your heart out. All right, let me see what we got here. Actually, we can go look at everything that it wrote because it wrote it into the specs directory. So let's go look at specs real quick. Let's see. So specs, here's our... Oh, okay, this is the only spec we've got, so that's the one that's showing up here. So we have requirements, and we've got whatever the spec is. Meow. What about requirements? Meow? Meow? What about meow? You want the universal translator? I do want the universal translator. And not the one from, you know, that Uhura had to use that like it sounded really robotic. I'm talking about the TNG one. I want that in Universal Translator. Where's my water? Hang on one sec, guys. I gotta get some water. One sec. All right, I'm back. Guess who's back? Back again. All right, that would be an interesting power. I think so, man. So I went out there to go get my water from the kitchen, and Sock is laying on the couch, just chilling out. Kids have gone to bed. And lean over, give her a little peck. And I guess because the air is so dry in the house and I'm in carpet in the bedroom, right? I guess I built up a static charge. Lean over, give her a little peck, and like a freaking lightning bolt jumps off my bottom lip. I'm like, ow! All right, let's see what it came up with here. So user's description is command and control communication, beaconing, and task distribution. Okay. Testing is mandatory, so user scenario 1. So an operator deploys an agent to a target system. The agent automatically establishes communications with the C2 server, sending periodic check-in beacons to indicate it is alive and ready to receive tasks. The operator can see the agent appear in the console with basic target information. Oh, see, this is not what I wanted. No, 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 no. No, no, no. No, no, no. Because I don't want to build a C2. I want you to integrate to a C2. No, 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 no. No, no, no. Let me look at the requirements here. Let's see what... Actually, hold on. Well, let's finish with the spec, and then we'll look at the requirements. So without reliable check-in communications, no other C2 functionality is possible. Yep. Can be fully tested by deploying an agent and verifying it appears in the C2 console with the configured beacon interval. Nope, nope. So this is exactly what I was worried it was going to do, is take it in like a completely different direction. Operator selects an agent and issues a task command. Yeah. So let's come back over to it real quick. Let's spec 1 is concerned with crafting a new C2. I want spec 1 to handle converting an exploit and deploying a C2 agent to an already established platform. We're just tinkering around with this. I don't think this is going to work for what we're trying to do, but I wanted to see what it does. Actually, we could have done something different here. We could have told it that, hey, by the way, spec 1 is supposed to be this. I just wanted to see what it was going to do. A lot of times it's just, we hack around and find out. Potentially found some work, and I've been looking for 7 months. Dude, sick. I hope it turns out really well for you, man. I think a lot of the vibe coding, and so I usually encourage folks, hey, if you are wanting to move into offensive security, one of the simplest areas that is both low barrier to entry and very deep advanced that you can get into is working in web apps, web specifications. And the reason for that is because just about everything has a freaking web API or some kind of a web app that's written for it, especially with a lot of the vibe coding stuff. So now that we're looking at how to, a lot of people just basically vibe coding their own SaaS and trying to get that, 10 million ARR. I think there's going to be a huge amount of work in that area there was already a lot of work there. I'd say when I was working at my last company, we did probably about 60 to 70% web applications. That was about the bulk of the work that we did. And the other was miscellaneous miscellaneous one-offs. It kind of oscillated between looking at enterprise environments and doing on-site assessments of like wireless and physical and social engineering. That was kind of, that made up the other 30% in there. So what we need to know is which C2 platform should the system support? We're going to say, for now, we're going to only use Mythic C2. So system must support payload generation for Mythic C2 platform. Sure. Let's go look at that. Hey Ken, what's up, man? I've been doing web apps since Christ was was a corporal. Looking to expand my skills into other areas. Ken, I really liked, obviously you guys know that I'm a huge Rasta Mouse fanboy. And so the guys over at, I think if you do !RTO in the chat, it will spit it out in there. Let me see. And let me see if that's the right one. That actually might be the old link. Hang on one second. I think I need to update that link. It is. Let me see. View courses. Red Team Ops. Yeah, it is. Hang on. Let me go. I'm going to update that here. I'm going to drop the link for the correct one in chat here. So the Red Team Ops course from Zero Point Security is absolutely great, especially with some of the updates he made recently where the labs are a lot more contained and modular. It makes it to where you can kind of really get in and dig in a lot faster. What is that? Nightbot. I'm going to go update that in Nightbot real fast because that is... Let's see, commands. Yeah, let me edit this. There we go. Okay, now the RTO command has the updated link to it in there. All right, perfect. So a configured Mythic C2 server instance. Key entities, yeah. Attributes, server address, port API key, callback host, listener profile, available payload types. Ooh, interesting that it's coming up with this information. We'll let this churn for just a second. Then we'll go look at the new spec after it updated it. That is handy though. Hey, it's going to spit out junk here because the spec was absolutely garbage for what we were looking at, right? So let's mark down and preview this here. So now what do we have? Converting an exploit and deploying a C2 agent to an already established platform. So, operator has a working exploit that needs to convert it into a format suitable for deploying a C2 agent. System takes the exploit code and generates a payload that, when executed on target, will deploy and execute a C2 agent. Okay, sounds like it's good. Exploit payload conversion, agent deployment after execution. Yeah, this is the scenario we're mostly interested in, right? Operator executes the converted payload on a compromised target. The payload downloads or unpacks the C2 agent, configures it with the correct callback information, and executes it. agent then checks into the existing C2 infrastructure. Very cool. Let's see, user story 3 platform configuration. Operator configures the system with C2 platform details. This configuration is stored securely and used during payload generation to embed correct callback information. So that's actually very interesting because that's information we'll have to give the PostX agent, because we're gonna have to tell it what our IP address is for it to call back to us, and that's gonna change each time, unfortunately. Actually, I had an idea about that. Let me pull up something real quick. Let me pull up the HackBot code real quick. I want to take a look at something here. Let's bring this over. Close that. Let me look at something over in the exploit agent real quick. So what I wanted to look at is when we were doing our tasking. Wait, no, we're too far down. Where is our step processor? Here we go. So context is going to come from build exploit task context right there. So one thing we always have is in the state table, we have, where is that? We have a context value from here. So we should probably go ahead and see about potentially updating that, but we can always reference this from here. So if we needed to, I think what we could do is we could see about potentially updating the context. I gotta be real with you. After looking at how Claude Code handles a lot of these things, do we get very efficient with the HackBot code? Yeah, absolutely. It's going through, the context is toit like a toiger, and we're going through and we're getting all these things working, right? However, it's also very brittle because of that. So, for example, let's say we spin up our lab, we go through, we do our stuff, and then later the lab shuts down, comes back up. All the steps and all the information is the same. However, what has changed is we don't have, what is it? What has changed is just the IP addresses, essentially. The IP addresses, and if we have a web shell on target, right? Which we could go handle. We could go manually put the web shell back up. But one of the things that we don't have is a way to tell it, hey, by the way, this IP address has changed, because we're tracking so much information in here about that data. So I was thinking here in the context, we could make a little bit more use of this, saying, hey, by the way, the target changed IP addresses from IP A to B. And then we'd be able to reuse the context that we already had with that system. So that was just an idea I was tinkering around with in here. Let's see. Scenario 4, deployment verification, edge cases. What happens if the exploit targets an air-gapped system? We don't need that. How does the system handle different C2 agent versions? We don't need that either. What happens if the... I mean, it's cool that it's thinking about that, but we don't need to worry about that. What happens if the target architecture doesn't match the configured agent? Yeah, that'd be a good one. How does the system handle staged versus stageless payloads? Simple. We only use staged payloads. Very simple. Interesting that it thought of that, though, because it didn't do any web searches. It didn't come. This is literally information that it has pulled directly out of the language model's memory. And so I am using, since I upgraded my Claude Code subscription, I'm using Max now. I am using Opus 4.5. Let's see. All right, so functional requirements. System must accept exploit code in common formats such as shellcode, executables, or scripts. All right, so we want to go through and we want to modify this a bit if we were doing this. I do like the idea, though, of like what it's coming through and doing. This is actually pretty cool. Let's see. Successful create. Payload generation completes in under 30 seconds for standard configurations. That's gonna change depending on which payload we're building and if we've put an obfuscation in place. What is my mouse doing? It's going crazy. 95% of the generated payloads successfully deploy agents in controlled test environments. Stage payloads in under 10 kilobytes in size. Yeah, that ain't gonna work. Because we're not using staged payloads. Okay, hold on. This did say staged payloads. Okay, yeah. No, we're not using staged payloads. No, 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 no. I do like the idea of kind of what it's going with this. All right, I'm going to let this go for just a second. I want to run through the rest because I don't want to nitpick on it, but I do want to see what else it's got that it's going to spit out for us. So what was the next command we were supposed to run? So we just did, I think, specify. Yeah. So after we specify it, where is it? We're supposed to plan. Create the implementation plan. So, hold on. Optional commands. We can clarify, ask structured questions to de-risk ambiguous areas before planning. Analyze. We could also do a checklist. This is actually pretty cool. In fact, you could use this if you were, like I said, not doing an AI generation program. Next step is to clarify. Okay, you know what? Let's go through the clarify process. I want to see what it does. Maybe this will actually yield some fruit or give me some ideas on how to build out the post-exploitation agent. I mean, I did go through and leave myself a whole bunch of notes in here. What did I do that? Did I do that in the to-do? Yeah, here we go. Did I not commit this? Oh, yeah, that's my bad. We kind of went through and we brainstormed the workflow for the initial access exploit to C2. Actually, you know what? I realized this actually should not be the first step we need to do because there's actually a prerequisite to this. Let's go look at our picture here. This is actually not where we need to be. There's something else we got to do first, which is we need to integrate. We got to integrate over to Mythic. Integrate to Mythic. We got to be able to talk to Mythic and interact with it in an intelligent way. So integration to Mythic is actually going to be the first thing we've got to work on in here. And pretty much everything through that is going to be done through GraphQL queries. So I am going to have the language model help with that because God help me, I cannot stand GraphQL. Let me see what we got here. Let's see, non-functional quality attributes, partial. So missing observability and logging strategy for operator visibility. Mythic API interaction is unclear. REST versus GraphQL or SDK. Actually, hold on. I think Cody did make a Mythic Python SDK. Let me go look at that real quick. Mythic C2 Python SDK. I think he did make one. Well, this is for the Mythic scripting interface. Package creates a way to programmatically interact and control a Mythic instance. Command and Control C2 framework for red teaming. Code's available here. Mythic project documentation is available. Meow. Yeah, pretty much they said, hey, you can come through and you can use what we've got in Mythic there. So yeah, I think that's probably what we'll do is we'll put in this pip package in Meow. The question is, actually, I don't think any of the features like that have really changed in Mythic are going to break this SDK because they're all still using like the same GraphQL information in the backend. One of the guys I think did Adam Chester did make a Mythic C2 MCP, but it wasn't really XPN. Yeah, so he did make a simple proof of concept Mythic server that's an MCP. We could potentially use that. I think let me see. Most of what he had in here, though, is, I think, geared towards specifically using Apollo, though, Bobby. That's the kicker to it. So one of the things that we'll have to do, and that's why here in this document, we specified, like, hey, how we're going to do this. Windows, web shell Arachne, Linux web shell Arachne. We're specifying exactly which agent we're going to use, because we're going to have to have customization around those agents, because each agent has their own separate function set happening in there. So we're going to have to go through and work on how we're going to build those out. So every payload, basically every container in there. I don't think my Mythic server is up right now. In fact, I know it's not up because I just rebooted the server because it was we had a power outage last night. But as we're looking at it in here, right? So inside of Mythic, basically everything is a plugin to it. So we've got our basically our Mythic core, right? Which provides the framework and the functionality. And then our various agents, they'll come in here and they'll plug into it. And then we can also have our various C2 profiles, right? So the profiles will also plug in here. It's going to depend on which agents can talk to which profiles, because they're going to be configured to use different profiles in there. And then there's also translation containers that might need to be used in there. Typically, the translation containers would be packaged with the agent. So for example, Arachne is an agent, and Arachne has its own translation container. So all those things are there's a couple of different pieces we got to mesh together like a puzzle. So like you got to get more granular with the agent roles based on the context. Yeah, exactly. I don't know how you would effectively make an MCP server to talk to the different agents. I don't know, we could investigate it. Let me think. We might be able to make that work. If you had a supported list of agents in there. Now, one of the downsides is, let's say that one of the agents gets an update and then you've got to do it differently. It actually almost sounds like what you could potentially do if you really, really, really ridiculously wanted to go the MCP route is you'd have to have an MCP server with a plugin set up to it. So you could have the core functionality for the MCP server, but then you could have a plugin for all your different agents, right? All your agents, all of your different C2 profiles, all your different translation containers in there. All of those, you could have the different setups in there. That's a lot of work though. So basically you wouldn't just say like, hey, here's my MCP server, I'm gonna fire and forget. You would have the plugin, you'd have to go find a plugin for it to make it work with it. Now, one of the good sides, the benefits to that is each of these different agents or C2 profiles in here, you could have those be bundled with that. Like, hey, by the way, here's the plugin for the MCP server. That would be kind of cool. Because you got to think, Mythic is such a modular system that you'd have to, anything that's going to connect to it and try to do management tasks for it is going to have to be modular as well. You'd have one more issue you'd have to do with this, Bobby. So, by the way, we had talked about this, right? I had this idea. I swear, I know I'm not a big streamer, right? But I swear, I set some really good vocabulary in the industry because I never heard anybody talk about language models being non-deterministic or probabilistic in nature. And now everybody says, yeah, you got to deal with that because the output is non-deterministic. I'm like, who's been saying that for forever? This guy. And then also, what was the other one that I was thinking about? People were talking about, oh, yeah, so when you've got MCP servers connected, right? What's happening with that? Here, hold on. Let's do a little bit more drawing here. Let me clear this out. One of the other things I've heard folks saying recently is what happens whenever you've got too many MCP servers, right? Now, stop that. Yeah. There we go. So what happens when you have too many MCP servers, right? So your primary resource that you're working with whenever you're talking to a language model is your context window, right? You've got to have this in here. And every tool call that you send to a language model takes up a portion of the context here. What's going on? For some reason, the alerts are not working. I saw your message, Gumby. There it goes. It's just delayed severely.
Incoming transmission from Marano Gumby Toot That Horn Daddy Blaise.
Toot that horn, Daddy Blaise. So, but yeah, basically every one of these tool calls, and if you think about it, if you have, 3 different MCP servers, right? So you have like MCP1, you have MCP2, and MCP3. And if each of these has like 10 tool calls to it, right? Bam, 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 bam. You just got a shit ton of tool calls that are happening in there. I can tell you're a seasoned coder just by your hair. Funny enough, Ferryman, I'm actually not. I just code on stream for fun. I'm a penetration tester and a red teamer. I have done a lot of code modifications and hacking and breaking code, but actually writing code, I'm not. This is just from too much testosterone. No, I'm just kidding. It's just thin hair. I'm 42. And the beard, ironically, is from stress because I stopped shaving because I was so stressed out at work one time. And then the beard just started growing and I just let it go. But yeah, so all of these are happening here. So over in Claude Code, let's go take a look at this real quick. So Claude Code tool search. This was an idea that I had, right? I was planning on working on this. We've done a very basic version of the tool search, but we didn't really do tool search. We did tool filtering, right? We filtered, and we specifically with the Playwright MCP server, we said, by the way, this thing has like 17,000 tools. We don't need those. We gave it an explicit list of these are the tools we want that we're going to import. All the rest get chucked. And then this is what we've got to work with in here. And we did that to try to compress the context a bit. This is not what I wanted. Hang on. Here, this one had a great explanation of what happens to your context window, right? Actually, here we go. The tool challenge. So let's say you've got the GitHub MCP. That's 35 tools or roughly 26,000 tokens. And let's say you've got the Slack MCP. That's 11 tools, 21,000 tokens. If you've got Splunk, that's about 2 tools or 2,000 tokens. So just from coming through this, you've used 55,000 tokens right off the rip. So tool search goes through and says, I'm not going to put every single tool into the context window. I'm going to put a subset in there. I'm going to put a tool to find the tools. They called it tool search. I was going to call it the quartermaster because I'm a military fangirl. And but it's the same idea. It was go through and look at all the tools available and then return like the top 3 and let it work with just those. We talked about this a long time ago on the stream. And then all of a sudden, here comes Anthropic like, we got a thing. I was like, you're welcome. But here's the example, right? Typically, you can have about a usable 200,000 token context right here, right? Look at all this crap used up from MCP tokens or MCP tool calls. Look at that. And then after tool search, it goes, psh, you went from 77.2 thousand tokens to 8.7 thousand. So yeah, definitely. We'll absolutely have to go improve that and put that into the list there. I would have you pegged as a bicycle repairman based on your beard. Funny enough, I do need to fix my bicycle. Do I know Matt Lee, the CISSP? He comes to RSA quite often, and the guy's got a huge beard. I don't know if I have. I've no. If I know him, Sin, I don't know him by name. I probably know him by face. The bald head is for aerodynamic coding. Studies have shown it makes you 1.2% faster. It does. Yes. Dude, there was a hilarious story about a swimmer. He was an Olympic swimmer. I think it was around 1980s, and he had his little mustache. He didn't want to shave his entire face, so he kept a little mustache. And he's an American swimmer. The Russian coach was asking about that. Doesn't that slow you down? He's like, no, no, no. Because of the hydrodynamics, it actually makes me a little bit faster. And then the joke was that the next time he came against the Russian swimming team, every single one of them had the mustache. Hang on one sec, Chucky. It's so cold that the heater's running in the house and making the air just stupidly dry. So, any advice for someone who's about to graduate with a degree in cyber operations? I would say the first thing you should always do, Chucky, is go to local meetups if you can. If you're in an area, like if you're in a large metropolitan area and there's local meetups like a local DEF CON or a local 2600 or any of the other local cybersecurity groups, go to those and start getting to know people. Now, it might be different like if you're in, oh, you're here in Dallas? Bro, you're in the mecca of like hacker meetups. We have DC 214, the local DEF CON group, that's so old that now it still has a zip code to it. They don't even hardly use the 214 area code anymore. You've got Dallas Hackers Association. You've got the ISACA meetup. You've got DC 940, which happens up in Denton. So if you're on the north side of the Metroplex, you could very easily get to that. I'm not, so it takes me like 17 hours to get there. Otherwise, I would love to go to DC 940. But you have so many to go through. Start going there and just getting to know people. You have to start networking with folks. Every single IT job I've had was by referral. And so I knew somebody who worked there that referred me. And so my first job at the college was basically by referral because I went to the college, they knew me, they saw what I knew. Bam, that's how I got that job. After that, one of the guys who was a professor at the university worked during the daytime. So he basically taught at night, worked during the day. He knew me, he referred me, bam, got that job. And then another guy that I worked with got me the job after that. And then another guy that I met at DC 214 and DHA got me my first penetration testing job. And then a guy that I used to work with at my first penetration testing company went to work at my current company, and that's how I got hired there. So it has always been by referral. I've always had an internal recommendation for everywhere I'm going. So I try to keep my network like really stout. So you need to know people. You need to get to know people, which I know can be hard, especially if you're an introvert, and get out and understand what issues they're facing. Let them know what issues you're facing. But the most important thing is helping them with their issues. So if it's something you're knowledgeable about and you can help them solve an issue, especially if it's a technical one, then that goes a long way to them understanding what's your work ethic, how do you operate, what your thinking process is like, and also kind of owing you one. And I'll be straight up with you. This is the next best thing you can do. Actually, the better thing you can do than helping somebody is helping somebody that they care about. So particularly like, hey, my kid is trying to get into Minecraft modding or now Hightail modding now that the Hightail open beta is out. If you could help somebody like, oh yeah, dude, that's my jam. I'll help them out. You start working with them on that. You help somebody that they care about, it does more than if you help them out. And then now the last part, which is the most important part, is you have to actually mean it. You can't just go through and do it like, hey, I'm scratching your back so you can scratch mine. No, you need to go through and help folks for the sake of helping them and just kind of building that social capital with them. Like, hey, yeah, look, I'm not a piece of shit. I do work hard. I know my stuff, and we can interact together. That's the biggest thing. If you were outside of Dallas, let's say you're living in a more rural area, I would say the next best thing to do is start interacting with folks on Discord servers. That is really like one of the best places to get to know security folks. You're the south side of Dallas County? No problem, dude. DHA, Dallas Hacker Association, and DC 214, super easy to get to, even if you're on the south side of Dallas. Oh, Space, thank you. This is actually my hoodie. Right? There you go. I got my hacker hoodie on. There you go. Now I'm really in hacker mode. Can't even see the chat right now. But yeah, it's pretty cold in the house. Usually this is the hottest room in the house, and even now I'm with my hoodie on. So 19 letters long. Thanks for coming online, man. Welcome in. I hope you're having a fantastic Saturday. Another thing I would say also, Chucky, is by getting out and getting to know those folks and interacting with them, they all work in different areas. There's so many different places that you can work in security. Everybody looks like, oh, it's just offensive or defensive. There's different areas in those two areas, and they cover every single vertical of technology. Every area of technology has security to it. So a lot of people view security as like, oh yeah, you've got these different verticals and you never cross outside them. That's technically true. However, security is more like an umbrella that sits on top of all of these things over here. There's always security that needs to be applied to every single one of those verticals, whether it's technical or administrative in there. So if you have an area that you're really interested in, there's a security component to that. Any technical skills I should always keep up with, like Python or programming or networking? I would say definitely keep your networking skills strong, because that's one area that I noticed just a lot of security people actually kind of suck at, is understanding like fundamentals of networking. So making sure you have a very firm understanding of IP, TCP, MAC addresses, and how those different layers interact. What's the difference between a layer 2 network versus a layer 3 network versus you're talking in between networks? That's super important. That has saved me so much trouble. I started my IT kind of professional journey with Cisco networking, and like really hardcore Cisco networking. And that has paid off so much, because I can troubleshoot where something's breaking down real fast, because I can instantly identify or eliminate if it's a network issue. I can say, by the way, because it's reacting like this and this, that means the network is functioning. So it's a problem on the endpoint. We got to maybe tweak our payload, or our exploit code is not kosher. But if it's acting like this and this, like we're not even connecting to the server, right? There's something filtering or dropping packets here, because we can see these 3 things that tell us we actually are connecting, but something's not firing right. So understanding networking, huge. That's the biggest area I think a lot of people kind of like lose track over, they gloss over, is understanding that. I'd say the other thing is just keeping up with like what's going on in the news. You don't got to go real deep, right? Sometimes you see me look at articles here on the live stream. Wednesday nights is news night, and I'll say, hey, by the way, this is just too deep for the live stream, or I can't provide enough context to it. Even if I wasn't just glossing over it for the live stream, I would go look at it and I would try to pick out what piece of information I could, but I'm not going to try to follow it line by line. Sometimes it's very deep reverse engineering or exploit development, which is something I'm not very skilled at. I just haven't taken the time to skill up in those areas. So always be looking for trying to keep an eye on what's going on in the security landscape. And I'll give you one more piece. Don't lose your focus. Keep focused on what you're working on at that time. It's real easy to get shiny thing syndrome, and ADHD runs rampant in the security community. It's just the two go together like lamb and tuna fish. Or maybe you prefer spaghetti and meatballs. But yes, those would be the main things I would say look at. Okay, let me get rid of the umbrella here. But yeah, going back to what you were saying, I think Bobby's going to say, yeah, that is a buttload of front-loaded context in there. I'd say after you get used to networks and like you're very familiar with them, the next thing would be understanding operating systems and like just how they're working. Yeah, networks, operating systems, and now AI. A thing that has saved me over the years is I have known assembler. Oh, nice. That's a great skill to have. If you know that all software is open source. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so going back to what I was saying before, we could very easily go through and build an MCP server to go through and handle, I think, all the various corner cases of what Mythic could provide. However, we had to deal with this right here. And so this is something that we're probably going to have to go build in to the post-exploitation agent, and we'll probably wrap it into some of the others, except I don't have the graph up right now, but essentially, let's take, for example, the recon agent. The recon agent basically looks like this. So we have our agent node right here. The agent node has a validator that kind of checks things these two run in a loop just to like do initial validations or validations after it's done. And then what we have next is we have our tool or agent calls that are going to happen here. So tools and agents. And then after we have those, we format the output. So we go through formatting. And then after formatting, I think we do host updates. So we update all of our tracking information in the state table. And then the last thing is going to be the revision node. So we look at it, we say, hey, by the way, was this actually completed correctly? And if it was, then, well, actually, then it doesn't matter. We just pass it back up to the agent here. So this is the basic loop that our recon and enumeration agents run in. So what we would do is, prior to having this tool call made, we would actually come through and we would insert another small node in here that would be the search node. And so that search node will then take all those MCP tools that we've got and then dynamically return like which ones we need in here. So it would go kind of like that. One of my last classes, we have to build an operating system. Dude, build Temple OS. Just for the memes, Chucky. That would be pretty funny. Somebody was talking about trying to make like a JavaScript operating system. I'm like, are you out of your damn mind? I don't know what I just clicked on. Oh, I hit try Claude or something and it brought me up to one of these other ones. I don't know if I would do that. Something not good happened to the last person that built Temple OS. That's true. I guess Temple OS is like the new Sonichu metal. It's cursed. I do kind of like this idea here. This MCP server actually has me thinking this part. Let's gold star that right there. Hold on. We're going to gold star that idea. I think that's a pretty sick idea. My school just told me I have to wait 4 months for my next class, so I've got a 4-month paid vacation. What? Hold on. I don't know if that's Doctrina or Doctrina. I'm gonna go with Doctrina. How are they just saying, hey, you gotta chill for 4 months? Is it because like the course is only offered during the summer? That's kind of wild, because I don't know many courses offered just during the summer. Wonder if he could take that SDK and use something like FastMCP to map it out and serve the associated tools. Possibly. I mean, the SDK, if we go look at it, let's see. There's the GraphQL API. There's also the Mythic RPC. But this one's going through Rabbit. Here's GraphQL. Here's development. Let's see. SDK. Oh, okay, this is not talking about the Mythic SDK, though. This is all for Python type development. This is for... Actually, I don't know. Are these included in the SDK? You know what? Let me back this up. Let me see. Is the SDK part of the Mythic C2 repo? Let's look at the Jupyter Docker here. Jupyter. Nope, here's where we've got everything. Hold on. So it would have been in here then. Oh, here we go. So he literally runs pip3 install mythic right there. These are from a long time ago. These are from like 2001. There's something in a pull request? Fix Mythic for use with existing API tokens. I wanted to see like the actual, like what methods and everything were available for Mythic. I mean, pretty much, I think all of these are just making they're basically custom GraphQL queries of like what you're doing. So you have the downside to GraphQL is it's kind of like an open world RPG. You have so many places you can go with it, but the downside is you don't know where to go because you have so many places you can go with it. I'm lost about where the A loops to V. Oh, okay, hang on. So the reason why so this is the primary agent node right here, Tragedy. Sorry, I just saw your message. And so this is the agent. The validator comes back through here, and when a task is first received by the agent, the first thing it does is the validator comes over and says, let me see every piece of information I've got about that target, and can we answer whatever this task is before? So maybe the task is like a recon or enumeration task. Like, hey, we want to know, is port 80 open? We can go look at it. It's like, yeah, by the way, we did an nmap scan already on the target, and that port was open. The next thing we could also do is we could come look at it or say, okay, cool. Do we know what server is running on port 80? Then the validator could come through and look at it. And basically it's doing a pre-flight check and be like, oh, hey, yeah, we did an nmap scan earlier. The nmap scan showed that it's running Apache. So we don't have to run through this entire loop. This kind of pre-flight check says, can we address the task, or has the task already been addressed from like what we've previously seen? That's what it's looking at. There is an SDK, right? We do have the Mythic SDK in there. It's just not very clearly documented, it doesn't look like. Maybe I'll have to ask Cody about that. Because if we come over here to the project links, to the home page, goes to Mythic scripting in here. So all requests are post requests to a single endpoint and then are processed by Hasura. Let's see. To determine what you're trying to do, GraphQL has leading action of query, mutation, or subscription to each message. That's helpful. Just her server console. It's just blank. What about the Jupyter notebooks? Does it mention anything in here? Let's see. Install the PyPy package. The current Mythic package is here. The code's public. Oh, okay. So the Mythic scripting repo, I think, actually is the ADK or the SDK. Yeah, I think this would be... Now, one of the things we can do, Bobby, is we could use this to kind of auto-create our various things that we need. I tell you what, let me see if I can get Mythic to start up real quick. Let's see, I think it's op Mythic CLI start. Oh, okay, fine. Will that make you happy if I sudo it? There we go. We'll let this come up here in just a second. And then once it's up, we'll go pull it up in the web interface, and then we'll look in the Jupyter notebook. Okay, so it should be up now. Close these. Let's see. What was that? I think I forget what the... $7443. That's what it was. I didn't remember what port it was on. I made the mistake of like putting a couple different dev environments in here. Wait, who's that? Hey, Sinners, thanks for coming online, man. Welcome in. There we go. Flashbang. There we go. Oh, why is it all... I think I made... I don't remember what I had in here. Damn it. Was it, is that it? Ah, shoot. I don't remember what my password was. Alright, fine. We'll just go get the admin password. If I could type. There we are. We'll just go log in as the Mythic admin. Oh, I had it saved in the other browser before I put that one in. That's what it was. Mythic admin. Where's dark mode? I know you're in here. There it is. Oh, my retinas. There we go. Services, Jupyter. There we go. Oh, I gotta remember what the... Jupyter. There we go. Let me grab the Jupyter token. Oh, good. That's in dark mode too. Let me zoom this in. There we go. So here's like a base example of everything we've got from Mythic in here, right? So bring this over. It's like if we want to look at agent messages, authentication, custom queries. So like for this one here, right? We could come through and we could say, hey, by the way, this is what we're going to get. We're going to do a custom GraphQL query. Oh, the Mythic logo? Yeah, it's kind of like a chimera, if you think about it. In fact, it is like a chimera. Just ask MS Recall for your password. God no, Grom. God no. Of course, every red teamer and I were like, yeah, turn recon on. Do it. We dare ya. And you know what else I recently heard is that apparently it really pisses Microsoft off when you call them microslop. So I was like, we're just going to do it even more, right? Yeah, I have all of the Copilot stuff neutered on this system. No. So like if we look at this right here, right? It's importing Mythic. And then we have our Mythic login function right here. Let me try something real quick. I'm going to run this. And then I'm going to add a new one here. Like, it should. Let me try something real quick. Temp equals await mythic dot. So, I mean, Cody went through and created a whole bunch in here, like create API token. There's a ton of stuff in this. Hold on, let me look at something real quick. So we have our GraphQL queries, Mythic, everything else in here. So here's mythic.py. So from in here, he is importing GraphQL queries. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4. Interesting. So what is he importing here? Queries, classes, utilities, and crypto. So it's queries, classes, utilities, crypto. Exceptions is the only thing he's not importing, and it's blank. So that explains why. So I think here's where he's got, oh my God, this is one huge Python file. It's so many lines. It's so many lines. Cody, what are you doing? What are you doing, bro? What is you doing? Take me to the top. Take it to the limit. There we go. Microsoft. Yeah, right. Macro Heart's going to be interesting. They've managed to build MS Productivity in Office Suite, then they have a slight problem. I don't know what they're going to do with that, or if that was just like a complete meme from, from Elon Musk. I do my best proofreading after I press enter. Oh, I know, right? It's like, yeah, let me send this. Oh, that was terrible. Market share of Linux desktops is up to 11.4%. Damn. That's a lot, because last I heard it was about 6%. So you're talking like a 5% jump. Yeah. Microsoft is the best thing to happen to Linux in a long time. And honestly, if there were not certain pieces of software I needed to run on this system that did not have a Linux equivalent, this system would not be running Windows 11. One of the main reasons why it is, and I never thought I'd ever put Windows 11 on this system, was when the CPU died. I was just trying to get it back up and working so I could get back to streaming. That was the main reason. And so Windows 11 was the easy route for that. But part of me really wants to... I really wish I did not have to use Windows 11 in here. There was one system... let me see. I think it's up on GitHub. I think it's this one from Damien Stabler. Is this the right one? Let me see. I don't think this is the right one. There's so many of these. Oh God. WinTool, let's see. Customize Windows. Is it Windows Tweaks? No, what was that? I want to say it was WinTool. Yes, it's the Chris Titus WinTool. Thank you, Fallen. Yes, that's the one. That was the one I was trying to remember. Chris Titus WinTool. Yeah, here we go. This was one that I used whenever I was setting up this computer to like very quickly go through and do stuff like disable Copilot, set back the classic right click menu. The new like React freaking right click menu drives me insane. And so yeah, this is what I used to actually go through and tweak a lot of stuff when I was trying to bootstrap this computer to get it back up and running so I could get back to streaming. Long story short, for anybody who doesn't know, the CPU died on the computer, which is wild. I've never had a CPU fail. I've had motherboards fail, had graphics cards fail, never had a CPU fail. And in fact, the way it was operating, I actually thought it was the power supply. I disable IPv6, Bobby. I'm like, my home network isn't set up for it. My ISP might, but I don't even give a damn. So no, I disable IPv6. And everybody's like, oh, but you can't reach certain services. I'm like, oh darn, I'm living without them anyway. So yes, the one from Chris Titus, I highly recommend. I used it when I was setting up this computer after the massive hardware fall. And I'll tell you something else that pissed me off about frickin' MicroSlop was that I had Windows 10 Pro on this. I bought the license, everything was copacetic with it, and then I upgraded the computer, and when I swapped the CPU, it invalidated the license because I didn't have a freaking Microsoft Online login tied to it. So I had to go buy another Windows 11 license. I'm like, that's how I feel about you, Microsoft. So damn annoying. And actually, I was gonna let it just say like not configured, like, you know, hey, you should activate Windows. Except they neutered a bunch of the sound interfaces, which I needed for the stream. Such a pain in the ass. So here's a way for us to get all of our various callbacks. Let me look at something real quick. Let me go pull up the Jupyter notebook. Let me see. So what is this one doing? We set up a Mythic login. Subscribe to all processes. Get all processes. Let me go find this one. Because he's got doc strings in here. Execute a query against Mythic to get all processes on this host that hooks into Mythic's process browser. Returns an async iterator, which can be used like so. The default set of attributes returned in the dictionary can be found in the GraphQL's Mythic tree fragment. If you want to use your own custom return attributes string to identify what information you want, you have to include the ID field. Everything else is optional. Okay. Developer usage for top distros is Ubuntu at 27%, Debian at 11%. Yeah, I use Debian. I mostly just play old games, so no need for Windows anymore. Gaming just does fine on Proton. I have not messed around with Proton yet, fast. I've been meaning to. And I don't get to play too many games now. The last game I played was, when was that? I think I did a stream on Christmas, and we played some more Alan Wake Remastered, which is such a good game. I really enjoy that. But for the most part, I'm just working a lot right now. So I go through phases where I'm gaming a lot and then where I'm working a lot. I'm back out of the gaming a lot section and back into the working a lot section of life. We had to set up a network using only IPv6 on all the routers and switches, all Windows servers and services, SIM and EDR, but learned a lot though. Dude, Doctrine, that that sounds painful, but also does sound like an amazing learning experience. IPv6, I think, was a way over-engineered solution. You didn't have to have site local, link local. They literally could have just taken what they've got from IPv4 and expanded it to 128 bits and been just fine. They didn't have to go so overboard and over-engineer IPv6 like they did. I think that's what really pisses a lot of people off about it, especially old school networking folks. Quick reminder, it is unethical to Google the Microsoft activation script and definitely avoid the MassGraph website. Yes, you should definitely avoid that. Don't do that. No, 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 don't do that. Catch you later. Okay, Palmer, thanks for stopping in, brother. Have a good night. I've been a bad boy starting. Yes, you are, Grim. Or Grom, I mean. Grom. Bad. Bad boy. What does this one do? Subscribe all processes? I mean, if we really wanted to, where's Expian's thing? So what tools did he expose in this? Oh, that's not the right one. Hold on. Here it is. Start pen test. You are an automated pen tester tasked with emulating a specific threat actor. The threat actor is blank. Your objective is blank. Perform any required steps to meet the objective. Nice. That's cool that he's got the prompts kind of put in here. Start recon. Attempt to authenticate as another user on network calls. So what does he do here? He does API make token, agent ID, user, and password. Oh, cool. Now here's the kicker though. Make token is going to be defined over here in the Mythic API. But I think most of these are like the command name, make token. This could be different if you had a different agent, right? That was doing token level impersonation on the process. That's where it comes in that, hey, it's going to be different almost for us. That's why I was saying that if you were going to plan this, you'd almost have to have like an MCP plugin system in here. And then you'd have to have the maintainers of, let's say, like the various agents actually give a damn and keep it up to date. It's way over engineered and way less secure. I don't know if it was less secure, Gumby. I mean, I think a lot of the security issues from IPv6 really stemmed from people not understanding it and not restricting it the way they should have, like they did with IPv4 networks. Because back in the day, there were a lot of stories where companies had way locked down IPv4 networks, like only certain ports are open, everything was restricted, but then IPv6 was just like walk right in the front door. Yeah, Bobby, you should get your eyes checked. Having such a hard time reading. Let's see here. I really actually kind of do like this MCP idea. So we had MCP, and we had our own version of something like tool search in here. Although I still think Quartermaster is a better name, but since they went ahead and cut it before I did, we'll call it tool search. Yeah. I think those might work. Let me look at something real quick. What's the current version of Mythic? Like, what's the current release version? 3.4 was just released on October 9th. But actually, this should work because the GraphQL database isn't going to change.
Incoming transmission from Marano Gumby. Just make it already. Hey.
I'm thinking about it, Gumby. I'm thinking. I'm thinking here. IPv6 just turned 30 years old. Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, it's right, Grom. Like, we're running out of IPv4 addresses. We need IPv6 stat. 30 years later. Why does nobody want IPv6? Everybody is coming up with all sorts of new technologies and new ways to like completely put off using IPv6. How would you attack a network using only IPv6? Painfully, because so many of the tools don't even think about IPv6. So many of the offensive tools are like strictly IPv4. Let me check something real quick. Just tell the AI to use IPv6? No.
Incoming transmission from Marano Gumby. Why don't you tell it to just use IPv6 for the C2 server?
Yeah, no kidding. Well, two reasons. One, all the intermediate network steps need to support IPv6. And for two, I hate IPv6. I'm just gonna be straight with you. I do. Do you think IPv6 is more secure? It's not more secure. It's more obfuscated. That's the kicker between the two of them. There is a certain amount of security that happens through IPv6. Although you just give me an idea. Why don't we try this?
Incoming transmission from Marano Gumby. Yay, I'm trolling. Love you, long time daddy Blaise.
Let's try something. So what is we supposed to do? I forget the order of operations in here. Hold on. It told me. Constitution. Let's go make a constitution here. We'll do a constitution. Yeah, there is something to be said about security through obscurity. And actually, if I had to say, like, what's one of the best things that companies could do in their environment is take a deep dive into, what is it? Take a really deep dive down into canary tokens. Things like the stuff that is going to trip up an attacker, like, hey, this looks really juicy, but it's really a landmine, right? But believe it or not, Sorcerer, I used to use port knocking on a VPN back in the day. So I had a VPN for my house that was open to the internet, but you had to port knock for it to be able to actually connect to it. So yeah, I did that back in the day for fun. Mythic API client, Mythic tooling, Mythic MCP server. Focus set covering the essentials. I want to see what this would do with it. Gumby, I guess that guy thought spamming the message was going to work.
Incoming transmission from RNO Gumby. My therapist told me to write letters to the people you hate and then burn them. Did that, but now I don't know what to do with the letters.
I would definitely say don't mail them. Definitely don't mail them now. Hey, CQQ, thanks for coming online, man. Welcome in. Let's test this just a little bit. Test-driven development. Test written alongside the implementation. Flexible testing approach. Varies by feature type. Which one would work for, like, if we were going to make a Mythic MCP server? I have no desire to go craft a bunch of GraphQL queries, so I'm actually thinking about this. Like, I wonder if I would just want to have Claude come through and make this thing. Why not? Let's do that. Node.js? God, no. We'll do it in Python.
Incoming transmission from RNO Gumby. Yay, I missed the bot, sorry.
Oh, no worries. I killed him. With prejudice. Oh, Gumby, yeah, there was a Tar Pit article for, what is it? There was one called Iocane. Yeah, if you guys hadn't seen this, if you're Iocane Madhouse projects. I don't know if he still has the code up. This is the actual. Hang on one sec. Let me see if I can find it real quick. No, stop. I want to see if I can find the actual source code to it. Also, Zinker, thanks for coming online, man. Welcome in. Iocane Madhouse source code. Does this actually have it? Unfortunately, everything that linked to it, which was Iocane Madhouse project, just pulls up the actual. So, like, this is what it looks like, right? What it's designed to do is just put absolute freaking garbage out onto it with these never-ending self-referential links. So if something tries to come and scrape your site, it just gets this. Oh, this is great. The Anthropic Magic Refusal String. If you don't know what this is, I just learned about this. Think of this as like an iCar string for Anthropic. When it sees this, it like panics out and just dies. So we have all these various images in here, all these links. Like I click one of these links, it brings me to another nonsense page. I click this one, brings me to another nonsense page. I click this one, brings me to another nonsense page. It's designed to be a tar pit for AI scrapers that come in here. Ah, so funny. This is great. Unfortunately, it used to actually list the source code, and now I don't know where the source code to it is anymore. I love this. Can you back up your claim with a source? Deleted. Deleted. Oh, is this the one of how it works? No, damn it. It used to be up here, how it works, and it explained it. Oh, that makes me sad. I forget who wrote it, but yeah. So that was the project though. There. Thanks, Gumby. I've got a PHP for AI spammy things that I'll drop on Discord. Nice. Oh, hold on. So I got distracted. Let's see here.
Incoming transmission from RNO Gumby, some asshole.
He asshole. Let's see. All code must prioritize security, no credentials stored in code. Something else.
Incoming transmission from RNO Gumby, same.
Yeah, we'll do modular design. Let's see. Second core principle. What's third core principle? Simplicity. I don't know. What is the Yagni principle? It does need to have a modular design. We've already discussed that. Principle 2. Design principle 3, simplicity. Minimal dependencies, clear interfaces. Yeah, sure, we'll go with that. Hold on, what was this message from Grom here? So my go-to these days are info screens and meeting rooms for TVs, etc. So if you jam a USB into them 9 times out of 10, it'll auto-run a certain script I have in the root folder. That's funny. I wouldn't surprise me. Actually, so Grom, I think it was 2 weeks ago on the news stream, we covered that there are so many of these TVs and TV boxes that are basically running garbage old Android and have ADB enabled in them from the beginning. Oh, Yagni is don't add possible future proofing, just add what you need now. Got it. Thanks, Monkey. Yeah, they're usually running, yeah, like either Android or Linux. Let's see. Yeah, we'll accept this. So believe it or not, that's one of the things, Bobby, that I do is I feed it a bunch of source documentation from the Python functions and craft what's specifically needed. That is what I'll do to it. In fact, maybe we should do that before doing this. Let me see here. Oh, wait, hold on. I forgot. That is actually stored over in... Let me clear the context here. I'm going to do something in here. I'm going to exit out of this. Let's see. CD to... Actually, I'm going to kill the specification. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to add... I'm going to make dir... Actually, I'm not even going to do that. I'm going to git clone mythic scripting over into this. Because this is a trick that I have used whenever I'm doing any kind of like AI coding assistance, is it's got to have something to reference, right? Actually, hold on. I'm going to do something different. Make dir, let's call this, I'm going to call it reps. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to echo reps, if I can type, and put that into the .get ignore. I can't type. There we go. Put that into there. Dang it. I'm stuck in. There we go. So now in the get ignore, we've got this. So then I'm going to CD over into refs. And what this is going to be is now we're going to git clone down all the various data sets that we need. So we want information on Mythic scripting. We're going to want documentation for Mythic itself. So what we can do is we can even go git clone Mythic down to this. Or we can just do a code download here. So let's go grab, let me get the link for this. Copy link address, and then I'm going to wget that, and then we're going to untar it once it gets down here. So let's do a tar, let's see, xzf, what was the file called? There we go. So now we got Mythic 3 right there. Let's take out the tar file here. So now we got a full copy of the Mythic code base, and we also got a copy of the Mythic scripting in here. And then let's go do something else. Let's go grab the code for Arachne, because that's what the two like primary modules that we're going to have in here, right? So let's go to Mythic Arachne. I misspelled Arachne. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Here we go. Here's Arachne. We're going to do the same thing. So we're going to come over here, and then we're going to git clone Actually, I'm going to make another directory here. Let's do make their agents, and then cd to agents, and then we're going to now we're going to do git clone of that, and then we want one more. Oh, actually, there's two more in here we want. I think we want. Where is that? I think I said Mythic and Apollo is what we're going to use. Let's see. Well, for now, it's just Arachne. Oh, yeah, there we go. Linux, Poseidon, Windows. Oh, I didn't put that in here. So we're going to say that's going to be Apollo right there. So then we're going to grab the Apollo, Arachne, and Poseidon ones in here. So what we'll do is, let's go grab that now. Where did my window go? There it is. So we go back to Mythic Agents. Let's go grab Apollo. Repositories. Let's grab us Apollo. Woot. So we'll go grab this one. Right about meow. Where'd it go? There it is. So let's go clone that one down. There we go. And then last thing we want to go do is grab Poseidon. Poseidon. There we go. So now what we can do is anytime we needed to reference that, we can. We can say, hey, by the way, you have a complete copy of the code base here. Not like that. There we go. And we can have it go through and we can have it reference all that stuff real fast. I'm picking up what you're putting down. Yeah, so basically I want it to have as much context when it needs it and it can go find it. So one of the things we can also do is, if we really wanted to get like kind of granular about this, I could actually go into each of these. So for example, let's go over to Apollo. I'm going to run Claude directly in here. And I'm going to do an init on it. I'm going to let it go through and explore and create information about this entire code base in here. And so it'll make its own claude.md file that is specialized for it to know how to reference everything in this directory, right? And in fact, we can even go over here, cd to Mythic MCP, refs, agents. Let's do Arachne next. We can do the same thing. Run Claude inside here, have it do another init while that's turning. We'll just run two of these at once. We'll let it do its thing. Oh, you know what? Why not? No, let's not do that. Mythic, refs, agents, Poseidon. Let's come over here. We'll do the same thing. We'll have it do its own thing. And then we're going to rename all of those from Claude to whatever the exact agent is in here. So now we got 3 copies of Claude actually just all churning in the background. Oh, Grom, let me take a look at that real quick. Hang on. Because as much as I like working with the various AI agents, I think they're fun and they're fun to tinker with, messing with them also is right in my wheelhouse. Nepethys. This is a tar pit intended to catch web crawlers. Specifically, it targets crawlers that scrape data for language models, but really, like the plants it's named after, it'll eat just about anything it finds in its way. So it works by generating an endless sequence of pages, each of which with dozens of links that simply go back into the tar pit. So pages are randomly generated, but the deterministic way causing them to appear to be flat files that never change. Intentional delay is added to prevent callers from bogging down the server, in addition to wasting their time. Lastly, Markov babble is added to the pages to give the crawlers something to scrape up and train their language models on, hopefully accelerating model collapse. I love how you're just straight up with that. Warning, this is deliberately malicious software intended to cause harmful activity. Do not deploy if you aren't fully comfortable with what you're doing. I mean, That's like saying, you know, hey, don't come into my house uninvited, right? You could even put a warning on your page that says, by the way, there are anti-LLM scraping technologies in place. You have been warned. And then it's basically the same thing as saying, you know, don't enter the house. You know, owner is armed and has a German Shepherd. Another warning, language model scrapers are relentless and brutal. You may be able to keep them at bay with the software, but it works by providing them with a never-ending stream of exactly what they're looking for. You are likely to experience significant continuous CPU load. Yeah, that was the same warning that they had on iocane too before they took the reference docs down. Great effort's been taken to make Nepenthes. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I hope so. More performant and to use the bare minimum system resources, but it's still trivially easy to misconfigure in a way that can take your server offline. This is especially true if some of the very aggressive, less well-behaved crawlers find your instance. If I was going to deploy this, probably what I would do, Grom, is I would have something probably looking at a maybe like a J3 fingerprint or something along those lines in front of it. And if it fails, then send it to a separate server through like an Nginx proxy and start serving this material up. So you have an Nginx proxy in front of your main site that can serve up real material if it passes like a J3, I think it's, what's it called? J3A, J3, something like that, fingerprint. Send it to the real site. If it fails that check, then send it to this secondary server over here. I think it's pronounced Nepenthes. Yeah, nup on these nuts. Hey, Sick, what's up, man? Here's the gun. Don't shoot yourself unless you don't know what you're doing. That's pretty much what like every language model is now. Turning people that don't have a basic understanding of software design and concepts loose with like an AI coding module is pretty much just like giving a machine gun to a monkey, which we stopped doing after the Estada Zoo massacre of 1999. Yet another warning. There are currently there's not currently a way to differentiate between web crawlers that are indexing sites for search purposes versus crawlers that are training AI models. Any site this software is applied to will likely disappear from all search results. I mean, some people would be very happy about that. That's awesome, though. I love this idea. Yes, make the cloud empty. What about number 2? Yeah, sure, do that. What about you? Yes, do that. So no more gun control debates, only AI control. I think they're... And see, the hard part is, it's like... And that's where Anthropic, I think, really sticks in my craw, is they're like, hey, AI has to be, controlled and regulated and this and that. I was like, yeah, because you're already ahead in the game. That's typically what happens is when a company is new and up and coming in startup, they're like, no, regulation bad. And then once they start becoming like one of the top dogs, like, oh yeah, regulation good. Because now they want to put a barrier between where they were and where they are to stop someone else from making that same jump in there, right? It's probably pronounced more like these, like the Greek word for something. Probably. Okay. Actually, I'm just going to leave that as the Claude MD for now. Let's see. Let me come back down here. We've got all these running. Let me CD over into... Let's do Mythic Scripting. I'm going to do the same thing in here. We're going to init this. Let it do its thing. I'm just going to accept edits on it. This one's still running. This one is still running. Accept edits. That will be fine. There we go. I'm gonna let it Ralph Wiggum this. Yeah, pulling up the ladder after they've already climbed it, Gumby. Or a monkey, exactly. I just realized I didn't. Hang on, what's that, guys? Forgot I had a system that needed a battery charge. I forgot to plug it in. Thundering. Yeah, I think we'll start working on this. We'll just let this, we'll let Claude kind of code on this and we'll test it out. The downside will be I'll need to get a couple of test systems spun up in the lab where we can run Apollo. I need to actually, I got a whole lot of care and feeding of the Ludus lab I got to do. I need to tear down all the ranges except for this one because they're just not being used. They're out of date. Rebuild the templates. And then what we could do is we could deploy a Linux server that we could have Arachne and Poseidon running on, and a Windows machine that we could have Apollo running on, so that we can have it go through and test all the various plugins we want it to build. To be honest, I thought OpenAI would have done that even more. Yeah, no kidding. OpenAI is in a weird position. I think they've way over leveraged themselves, Max. Claude's the only one that I've seen the whole Constitution doc. Yeah. I don't think the guys at Anthropic are doing everything that they're doing that's sketch maliciously, but I do think what they're doing is well-intentioned, but not necessarily the right way to go about it. Yeah, fast. They just bought all the raw wafers, which was wild. Let's see. And then CD over to Mythic. And then let me do here. Claude. And then accept edits, and then go ahead and do init. There we go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to have a Claude document that's going to explain the structure of each of these as it goes through. So that was Arachne. Let's see. The one for Poseidon is still churning. Actually, let me try something real quick. Yeah, so this one's done. I wonder what my usage has been just for this little bit, because it should be near 0. Wow, I've only used 12% from this? Nice. Nice. Okay. Anyway, we're done here. We now have our Claude instructions for that one. So we'll exit out of that, exit out of that. And this one should be the last one. So we should have had the Mythic scripting, the actual Mythic code base itself, and then all 3 of the agents in there. So we'll use that as a starting point for each of these. Yeah. Well, Bobby, actually, there is a record number of rejections of databases occurring right now because a lot of communities have now become aware of like these data centers that they previously didn't really pay attention to being deployed in their very small neighborhoods, right? And they're like, no, we don't want you in here. We don't want you taxing our power. We don't want you taxing our water infrastructure. And so there's the number of, let's say, like proposed and stopped data centers, I think in the last year was more than the previous 5 years combined or something like that. It's a huge increase in the number. Yeah. They're trying to build all this out, but we didn't have any surplus infrastructure to go build it with, namely being water and power. Power being the big one. We should have been building nuclear for a long time, but everybody's like, oh my God, what about 3 Mile Island? I was like, that was a special scenario and not a lot happened from 3 Mile Island. And everybody's like, but oh my God, what about Chernobyl? Chernobyl was a complete and utter clusterfuck from the get-go and never should have happened. The RBMK reactors are actually fairly stable if you don't basically turn it into a giant bomb. All right, let's go make the Constitution now. Actually, I want to try something real quick. Oh, I meant to kill that. I wanted to rm specify. We're going to kill that. Well, if I could type in there. I'm curious if this will even work. This is just a test of, hey, let's see what the process is like. And it's a good test to look at because, hey, if we're going to look at this, what can happen is, from a security perspective, you need to understand how systems are built, how they function. Actually, let's take it back. You need to understand how systems are functioning, how they're built, and how they're created as they go through. And if you don't understand that, and this is the current kind of creative process, then how are we going to attack it?
Transmission from RNO Gumby https://www.
Oh my God, you're killing me, Gumby. Oh my God, they killed Kenny. You bastards. Data center boom impacting Georgia's water resources. I don't doubt it, man. I was like, there's just so many places that they have not expanded the infrastructure. I did click on it.
Incoming transmission from RNO Gumby. Click on that.
Let's see. So this could be a Mythic MCP short name based on the directory. Yeah, sure. Purpose: MCP server for the Mythic. Principles: security, reliability, usability. Other thing. Principles. Actually, I don't really care about security so much. Sure. 5 principles. Why not? Let's see. Security professionals. There we go. Run. We're going to make a new one. The sound earlier reminded you of the number stations. Oh, dude, I hadn't thought about number stations in a long time. If you don't know what the number stations are, there were these very weird radio stations that would broadcast all sorts of random noises, sounds. Occasionally, they would stop and a human voice would break in whatever language and just start saying random numbers. And the idea was that it was some kind of like spook network that was going through and like for spies to like keep track of certain things. It's a wild story. If you don't know about number stations, you should go check on them.
Incoming transmission from RNO Gumby to the man in the wheelchair that stole my camouflage jacket. You can hide, but you can't run.
I gotta tell you a funny story. So my sister, the one that, you know, passed away, it feels like recently. It was over a year ago now, but when I was living in Louisiana, she was taking care of my dog Rudy. Rudy is a little Chihuahua, and I don't even like Chihuahuas, but he was the coolest, most chill Chihuahua ever. Like, I remember I had had him for a long time, many years, and I had never really heard him bark. And then one time he was getting pissed off at a possum in the backyard, and he starts going absolutely ape at the back door. There's a big sliding glass door so he could see out there. And it caught me so off guard. I was like, is that Rudy barking? Anyway, very cool, super mellow, sweet Chihuahua. But she was taking care of him when we moved to Louisiana. And It was super cold like it is right now in Dallas, and she put him in this little camouflage, like almost like a onesie. It was like maybe more like a jacket, but it was camo. And then she put him up on the floor and took a picture of him and sent it to me. Or no, put him on the couch. That's what it was. Put him on the couch and sent a picture of him. And it's like, this is what Rudy's wearing for, you know, the cold weather. And I was like, why are you sending me a picture of the couch? And she's like, no, it's a picture of Rudy. I was like, I don't see Rudy in there. So she sends me another picture. I was like, I still don't get why you're sending me pictures of the couch. I'm just totally messing with her, right? And then she like gets right up on him. She sends me like 7 pictures like this, like trying to be like, how blind are you? Well, the whole time I'm like, I can't see him. Finally, she starts texting my wife, starts texting Sock, and it's like, will you please show this to your blind husband and point out where Rudy is? And finally, Sock had pity on her and was like, no, he can't see Rudy because he's camouflaged. She messaged me so pissed off. Oh, that was too funny. What was that? Spec kit. Spec kit. Specify. Yeah. Oh, I remember. So Agent Zero was tiny when Rudy finally died, but Rudy was like 20 years old. He lived a very long time for a Chihuahua, and I think Agent Zero was about 2 years old at that point. And I had to tell him about it. I was like, "Hey, buddy," I explained that Rudy died, and he was 2. He didn't quite get it right. So then he comes over, and he loved going to my parents' house. That's where Rudy lived, and he's just having a great time. And then he just stops, and he's like, Granny, did Rudy die while I was gone? I was like, oh, you're right in the feels. Poor little guy. Let's see. What features do you want to specify for the Mythic MCP? Task execution, all of the above. This server should handle core functions of Mythic with extensible plugins to support agents. Yeah, we'll just say that. I was like, technically there's more stuff that we could support in there, but mostly right now I think we're interested in supporting the agents. Maybe Rudy was instructed to bark by a message from his handlers at the number stations. Possibly. He was a very sneaky dog. Yeah, the number stations are kind of wild. I haven't seen any of the SDR guys talking about it, but I know they're still out there. I wanted to get more into the radio scene. It's just a matter of where do I spend my time currency. Oh, you know what I think I did? I think I screwed this up whenever I deleted the Specify one. Yeah. Let's go through this again. Hold on. Because when I killed good old Specify right here. And also I'm gonna kill the .get file. We're gonna make this brand new. Okay. I think I can do init dot right here. Template files will be merged with existing content, may overwrite. Yeah, we're good. Do Claude. There we go. Okay. Damn, we gotta go through the Constitution again then. Because I forgot, it has all the templates and scripts in the Specify directory. We should have Oh, we didn't make a Claude directory for this one. Should have probably done that first. Let me kill this real quick. Let's init this real quick. Just to give it a little bit more context on like what's happening here. Actually, I don't want to do that. I want to do one more thing in here. Let's make a README file real fast. README MD. This is going to be Mythic MCP server. This server is, we'll say, this is an MCP server for the Mythic C2 framework. What's that being dumb? It contains basic functionality for working with Mythic, and as a plugin system to support, let's see, interactions with Mythic agents. All right, so just a very basic README to give it an idea of like what's happening in here. Now init it, because it's gonna read that README file and then start going through everything else after that. The stations are full and operational. They have changed the sequence several times before major Russian activities in Ukraine over the past 4 years. Oh, I don't doubt it, man. Because a lot of the voices that from what I've read, that appear on those number stations are Russian voices, and providing like Russian instruction sets. Probably should have put a note in the refs directory that this is simply reference material. Anyone familiar with Dancing Man from Sherlock Holmes? That's how I'll be communicating my cipher code if you can come across it. I'm not familiar with that one, Bobby. Cyber Bunker? What's it about, Grom? Tokens go burr. Everybody thought cars and plastic straws were going to kill the environment. Turns out it's AI and cat girl videos. Admittedly, the Russians had 0 OPSEC at the start, running off unencrypted Baofangs. It's funny you mention that. I don't think I've got any right here with me, but yeah, I've got a couple of the Baofangs because when we'd go out with our friends, that's what we would use to like keep in touch with them. So I would pre-code them and be like, okay, cool, these are all set. Here's the channels that you need to talk to on, and basically just I had like 3 of them, so we'd keep one, we'd give 2, like 1 to each of our friends, and be like, here you go, this is how we can keep in touch. Don't go too far. So the IMDb says a group of hackers powered the darkest quarters of the internet from a Cold War era bunker in a quiet German tourist town. Ooh. Cyber bunker? Hold on, let me look at that. This is the one. Cyberbunker was an internet service provider located in the Netherlands and Germany that, according to the website, hosted services to any website except Childpron and anything related to the Terrys. The company first operated in a former NATO bunker in Zealand, not to be confused with New Zealand, from where it got its name, and later another former NATO bunker in Trebentrabeck, Germany. Ooh, that's pretty. Look at that. Sven Olaf Kamfusian? I know I'm saying that wrong. Referred to Cyberbunker as the Republic of Cyberbunker and referred to himself as the Minister of Telecommunications and Foreign Affairs. Oh, that was the host for Pirate Bay and WikiLeaks. Some of the WikiLeaks mirrors. Interesting. Okay, yeah, there's a documentary about that I definitely want to read about. Okay, so now let's go have Speckify make the Constitution. Make me a Constitution. We'll have 3 equal parts. We owned the spaceship van in the image. Wait, hold on. Oh, you used to have one of these, Bobby? The spaceship van. I wanted to see if it would zoom in on it. No, go back. Was that a... I'm trying to remember the manufacturer in there. Not Oldsmobile. Was that a Chrysler? Feels kind of Pontiac-y. I know, but they're all kind of like similar in there. Possibly an Oldsmobile. Dude, they all were like kind of like they had this incestuous relationship where all the automobile parts just kind of switched and swapped in there. I was hanging on a web SDR back in those days and listening to the map grid coordinates being shipped around in real time and hearing news stories about it the next day. Oh, rip, Max. Constitution version 1, MCP protocol first. All functionality exposed by MCP interfaces. Let's see. Python async await functions, plugin isolation, agent-specific code in plugins, not the core. Explicit authorization context, clear labeling of mythic operations, failsafe defaults. Cool. I'm gonna go with Videotech. I'm going to assume that the W is being pronounced as a V. Videotech. Hey, thanks for coming online, man. Welcome in. I totally am not even paying attention to the time. Like, the stream's been over 15 minutes, but you know what? I want to kind of mess with this a little bit. Let's see. All right, so now we're supposed to run the specify command. Let's see. Specify. What's the first spec we want to do? We want to handle the core functionality first. Wait, did I do this out of order? Hang on. We already have a constitution, though. Hold on.
Incoming transmission from RNO Gumby. Don't piss off Soak Daddy Blaise.
Yeah. That'd be Sock Mommy. And yes, no, I don't want to make her mad. She's been mad at me the entire last week because I've been going to bed at like 1 or 2 in the morning. She's like, what are you doing? It's like, I am working. I am exploring. Hold on, let me try running the Constitution again, because like, I don't think it asked us any questions about the Constitution. No changes needed. Okay. No, everything looked good in there. But when I try to run specify, user input is empty. So I need a feature description. Okay, let's do Mythic Framework Core Toolset. Let's see, Core Tools.
Yes, definitely don't want to make Sock mad though. She puts up with so much of my BS. She's awesome. There's no other way to say it. This is our first spec. Yes, make a spec for me. I'm going to review the Constitution and make sure this is legal. This is about creating a foundational MCP tool that interacts with the Mythic C2 framework. The core tools that are agent agnostic and provide basic Mythic operations. Let me write the specification. That's right. Spec-driven design me harder, daddy.
Incoming transmission from RNO Gumby, yay, or you'll be the one sleeping on the couch, hee.
Yeah. No, usually though, I do have to go make sure she turned off the light in the bedroom. She'll just leave it on until I come to bed. I'm like, babe. Wait, why is there already a spec for Mythic Core tools? Did we make that? I'm losing track of where I am. Mostly, this is a little bit of an experiment to see if this will even work, because one of the things that's kind of fun idea for this is doing some more of the rapid prototyping. One of the more stressful events whenever you're on a penetration test or a red team is trying to rapidly prototype a tool to make something work in an environment. And so if there's a way that this could be used to improve that rapid prototyping, that would be sick. All right, let's see. So now it's making us some checklist for the spec. Let's see what it came up with for the requirements in here. Hey, Dylan, thanks for coming online, man. Is this open code? No, this is actually Claude. And I actually have an idea. I have a couple of models marked out. I bought some open code credits. So eventually I do want to... I was trying to think of like actually some fun coding challenges that were based around security that we could use to kind of do a showdown between the two. So since I do have OpenClose, I have a Anthropic Max subscription. Because of that, I wanted to try and see like how far would each of those get. So I was trying to think of like 2 or 3 coding challenges. Do evil MCP, I know, right? But I was thinking like trying to do like 2 or 3 like coding challenges, and then have Claude run through it with Opus like 3 times, and then have OpenCode run through each one of those 3 times. So you're talking like if it was 3 coding challenges, we're going to do like 9 cycles of it going through there, and let it go through and build out something with it. Because you can actually use a mix of like, what's that? I think it's MK 2.1. Oh, what was the other one? I've got a list of the language models somewhere. They're a lot less expensive than what something like Opus would be. But I want to go through and actually, because of the way Claude Code functions and because of the way the prompt caching works, you actually get a lot of extension on your Claude Code subscription. So it's a little bit of a misnomer, but also shelling out $100 a month is kind of heavy for some folks. So if you've got a coding project you're working on and you can get the same thing done for $50 without a repeat subscription, that's pretty cool. So that would all kind of figure into the math of it as I was going through it. I think this all looks decent. So use stories, view active callbacks, view operation details, check Mythic server status, verify connectivity and authentication, retrieve callback details. Okay, so now what are we supposed to do after we do a spec here? Create implementation plan. Okay, so let's do that. Spec kit. Plan. Plan this out for me. Yeah, go ahead and run. Let me see here. I believe that's in. Hang on. I don't think I have anything sensitive there, but let me double check it real quick. Let me drop into OPSEC mode. Yeah, I don't think there's anything. No, this is a very basic one in here. So literally all it does is comes in here and it expects. Now, there you go. It just shows me the current usage, the context usage, and the model. And now the current usage I don't think is actually working in here. There is a way to kind of tell it to like show you like what your 5-hour window is, but it gets a little bit hacky in here. But this is real basic. There's a bunch Macs that folks have put in for Claude Code, and I haven't messed with the open code yet. It's on my to-do list, where you can go through and you can kind of you can set that up and keep kind of situational awareness of what's going on. Could you run an entire hack flow through Claude Code? You could. It would not be kind of as fine-tuned as what you could do. So one thing that's interesting about Claude Code is it's really more of a general purpose coding agent. And not even so much coding, but it does try to help out with code a lot, right? But it's more of a general purpose agent. It can handle a lot of very wild scenarios. So just like anything else that's general purpose, you're not going to get as efficient work out of it as if you built a purpose-built agent, which is what HackBot is supposed to be. So I don't feel like going through and coding out an entire MCP server. Yep, go ahead and search for stuff on the web. And I don't feel like going through and trying to code out an entire MCP server to go talk over to Mythic. But I think this idea might actually work pretty well. If nothing else, this might be just a fun one. Yep, go ahead and pull that. Yes, you can pull that. And yeah, you can pull that. This might be a fun way to like at least bootstrap our interactions over to Mythic. The tool search, however, so this node right here, right there. So this extra node we're going to put in here before the tooling agent kind of calls everything. Actually, technically it would sit up here. This is incorrect, but the tool search that we're going to implement would kind of go up here. It will be another language model call where it comes through and says, hey, which ones do we want to add to it? And we could do that. We could actually go through, there's several ways we could do the tool search. We could search by keywords. We could have the agent return certain keywords for like what it's looking for and send those back. I already had some ways, we've been doing some filtering on the tools to try and reduce the context and limit the number of tools we're sending to the language model. So there are some things we can do with that in there. But I think we're going to have to, I kind of envisioned that already. We just haven't gotten to the point where it was needed yet. These guys have balls for turned down $800 million from Meta to acquire their little AI chip startup, which aims to disrupt NVIDIA. Let me go take a look at that. Furiosa. And that's what I was saying. I was like, actually, though, the company with the biggest target on their back right now is NVIDIA. Because everybody wants a chunk of that $5 trillion pie. $512 T-flops, 48 gigs of memory. Wow, 384 terabits a second. That's a pretty decent memory pipe. I mean, it's not huge, but it's decent. It's better than the NVIDIA Spark. I think the NVIDIA Spark was 184. The 180 watt TDP is what's going to be huge. And this is what I was talking about is I think the next big update to AI hardware is, or just like any of these language models and AI stuff like that, is going to be improved efficiency in them. Right now, they're taking the approach of just cram more horsepower into it. Make it bigger, make it noisier, just ram more power down its throat. Basically taking the Intel approach, what it did with a lot of their chips, where they just like, we're just going to cram more power through it. Or what muscle cars did back in the day, is like, we're just going to cram more cubic inches under the hood. And then finally, things like, variable valve timing and fuel injection and turbocharging really became a popular thing there. So you could squeeze more efficiency out of the cubic inches that you've got. And so a combination of this with something like those improved models and their efficiency is going to go a huge way to it. Yeah, exactly, Grom. It's like a muscle car versus F1. You've got the lowest end tech versus like the top tier tech, right? It's going to try to evolve towards that. I kind of want to get through the plan phase here real quick before we wrap up the stream tonight. I'm surprised Sock actually has not come to yell at me yet. Typical rule of thumb is aggro percentage goes up by 2% every minute I go past 11 o'clock Central Time. We're about 11:30 now, so I should be at about a 60% aggro rate. NVIDIA's funding OpenAI to get them to sponsor data centers to have Oracle run them and on their own chips. It's like a round of hot potato to wrap your brain around. Oh yeah, dude. I call it the whirlpool of AI money. And eventually, actually, I kind of compare it to like a game of Duck, Duck, Goose. Eventually, the money's going to run out somewhere. Are you for real, Grom? F1 cars are only 1.6 liters? No. No. I refuse to believe that. What is the average displacement for an F1 car engine? Because some of those guys are rocking like V12s in there. Specification has been standard since 2014, so when Formula One transitioned to hybrid power units, current engines are V6 turbocharged internal combustion engines with a 1.6 liter displacement. Are you for real? I thought they were running... I mean, maybe I'm just an idiot. I don't follow F1 very closely. I thought they were running something like the high performance, like V12 type engines. That's nuts. Despite their small size, the engines produce 1,000 horsepower by combining high revving capabilities in excess of 19,000 RPMs. That's some precision. I can't talk. That's some like precision engineering right there. Hybrid energy conservation systems. Oh, that's sick. I had no idea they were running 1.6 liter V6s. That's insane. So there used to be there was a variant of the Ford Taurus back in the day called the SHO, the super high output model. And the SHO had, I think it was a 3 liter V6, and it was a Yamaha motor. But it was the same motor that Yamaha put into a lot of their boats. So there was a ton of boat shops that you could basically pull that SHO engine out of, send it to a boat shop, and have them do a complete performance overhaul. And this little, what's supposed to be a family car, would become like an 800 horsepower monster. Wow, so it's creating a research markdown file now. So hold on, what did it do here? So first thing it did was wrote down a plan and then it created a research file of like, I guess, what it's researched. That's sick. Yeah, that is incredible efficiency. That's insane. That's nuts. It's like what you get when you put a 4090 GPU and send it to the repair shop and have it upgraded to 48 gigs of RAM. Oh, I know. One of the guys in here actually sent a link to, I believe it was Alibaba, where these guys from China were selling, I want to say it was, hold on, do I still have it up? I do still have it up. Hang on. Check this out. It's almost $4,000, but it's a 5090 with 96 gigs of RAM in it. Check that out. That's kind of sick. I don't trust Alibaba. Have any of y'all ordered stuff from Ali? Because I have always been sketched out by it. It kind of just reminded me of Chinese Wish. And so I'm like, I don't know how much to trust on here. I was like, but that's pretty cool. They just taped some RAM to the side. That's probably what they did, Fault. It's not 96 gigs installed. It's just the box contains 96 gigs worth of RAM. I ordered some cheap stuff and some crafting items from there. Okay. Never ordered $3,000 worth of stuff in there. Yeah, I know. And that, unless I could make sure that like I could get like a credit card charge back, I'm not sure how much I would trust with this. Or if it wasn't gonna like catch my freaking computer on fire. But that is pretty cool. I mean, because what's your alternative? You could get like an RTX 6000 Pro, right? That one I think is only 48 gigs. Oh no, so that one is 96 also, but you're talking it's $8,700. So it's more than twice as expensive, approaching 3 times as expensive. And it's the same memory footprint. And the Pro does have, the 6000 does do more processing than like the 5090, but still. And you always have to wonder, like, where did they get the RAM chips, right? Comes with free Chinese spyware. Yeah, that too, Fault. Yeah, exactly. You get a box with $4,000 worth of rocks in it. That'd be some shiny rocks, though. I mean, if they were gold nuggets, I could smelt them. Smelt them down. Oh, that was you, Ken, that provided that? Okay, I couldn't remember who sent it. I was surprised I still had it up. 90% of your 99% of your electronics are produced China, right? Oh yeah, I'm very aware of Jack Ma, but still, it always felt a little sketch ordering stuff off of Ali. So I've never done it before. They're like the Amazon of the East. Oh, so Alibaba is the B2B version, and AliExpress is the basically business to consumer version. Okay. I saw a documentary. They went down to China to check out NVIDIA's pipeline and the mod scene. People actually doubling memory on a 4090 was wild. I've seen some guys in Brazil doing that, Max. I hadn't seen the guys out of China doing it, but it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, and there were some guys, and I want to say they had a YouTube video up that was showing them, you know, putting the extra, additional RAM or swapping out the RAM chips in there. Let's see, what did it come back with? All right, so plan is complete. Implementation plan. So we have our artifact plan, which is the technical context, constitution check, and project structure. We have our research, which looks at information for the MCP SDK, Mythic library decisions, We have our data model, so callbacks, operations, and operator entities. Our MCP tool calls, which is going to be 4 tools we're going to implement to start, and then usage and examples. So this is going to use fast MCP with decorator-based tools, Python version 3.10, single object with source mythic MCP. Okay, cool. You know, something else we could even do here is we could provide a prompt for... Because you can provide prompts from the MCP server. So one thing we could do is we could provide a prompt that says, this is how you use this. Here's how you use this MCP server. And then here's how you can find the tools that you want. I'll just tell this. Let's make a small update. Tools. Tool names should be namespaced by their function. E.g., list callbacks. So list callbacks is a core function. So it should be named core underscore list callbacks. And I'm going to modify this a wee bit. So if you notice, I'm putting these backticks around this. For some reason, the language models absolutely freaking love things in Markdown. They just digest Markdown like crazy. So if you want to draw extra attention to something or make it very specific, you can wrap it in backticks, like you're doing like anything like that, and it will draw additional attention to those values. I've ordered stuff from them and it was fine. Okay. You can order from Zhang on Alibaba $2,700 for a modded 4090. Two of those bad boys, and Olama is very happy. Ooh. Okay, cool. So what it's doing right now is it's renaming those core operations right there. Because one thing this will let us do is in our tool search, we could tell it, hey, by the way, core issues, right? They're going to be namespaced with this core functionality. Then as we come through and we start adding in new plugins, let's say, so we add a plugin for Apollo, we can namespace that to Apollo underscore or Arachne underscore. We put all that information into kind of like a master tool description prompt that says, this is what this does. And here's what you can do and how to search for it. So we can tell the tool search later how to efficiently filter those down without having to make extraneous language model calls. Yep. Except edits on. Hang on one sec, guys. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. So Gumby, I can neither confirm nor deny that. There's no Markdown support in Microsoft Teams. I'm not surprised. Teams is a garbage fire. It is a hot dumpster fire. You know, as I think about this, though, true to form, I always do my best thinking in the bathroom. As I was looking at this, really, you just have to know what command to send to it. I kind of like this idea. I do like this idea where, hey, we're going to have like an Apollo plugin to it. Yeah, because the shape of the information that you're going to send to it could be different. Especially when it comes to, I'm thinking about when you're running beacon object files, the input structure for the beacon object file can change drastically. So, chat, we got him. I don't trust either one, Ken. Looks like you code for a living. No, I don't. I code for fun. And this is actually just a little experiment to see, like, would this even work? This one right here. All right, hold on. Where did I leave off? Let's see. So we ran the plan. And next thing would be the task. So generate a list of actionable tasks. All right. We'll pick up with that tomorrow night because we are like 45 minutes past the normal stream ending time. So let me go see who we can find to raid over to. Let's see. Who do we have on our account? By the way, if you over on Twitch, if you have any raid suggestions, feel free to shout them out. Lots of Japanese streamers on right now. Oh, you know what? I forgot. I gotta check InfoSec streams. See if anybody's on real quick. Just us. Usually that's how it goes. This late at night. Ironically, all the hackers stream during the middle of the day.
Incoming transmission from Marano Gumby. Finish it up so it saves so you don't have to start over if the power goes out.
It should save it, Gumby. So if, for some reason, if the power goes out right here, we could actually just come in and run Claude with the attack continue command and be good.
Caution. A virus has been detected.
IMSEC virus detected in the network.
Hey, IMSEC, welcome in, Raiders. You actually just caught us as we're about to finish up. I'm actually looking for somebody to raid out to right now. But welcome in, guys. What are we working on, dude? Let me go check you out real quick. Come on. Oh, I am following you. Weird, it didn't show up as I was following you. Oh, you're playing Assassin's Creed. Nice. pillaging in Valhalla. Nice. Fun, man. Yeah, unfortunately, I just realized, like, we're probably about, I don't know, almost an hour past the usual stream ending time. So I was like, okay, we gotta go find somebody to go raid over to. But, say J-Blow's on? Let's go see what he's doing. J-Blow's playing Arc Raiders. Who else do we have on? Hectic is on. If I can type. Hectic is also playing Arc Raiders. You know what? We'll go right over to Hectic. Why not? Arc Raiders looks like such a fun game. I wish I had the time to play it. Hey, Grum, thanks, man. Appreciate you stopping in, dude. This is largely a fun stream where we do some kind of hacking shenanigans, and the chat tells me what a terrible person I am with what a great. Ironically, the only compliment I usually get is what a great beard I have. Which actually, I'm looking at it right now. It's looking a little fluffy. I need to trim it up a bit. So yeah, we'll go right over to Hectic. You know what? Actually, I have not rated J-Blow in a while, so we will go right over to J-Blow. He's pretty fun, dude. I'm glad to see him blowing off some steam right now. Yeah. So we'll do that. All right, guys. That's unfortunately where I got to wrap it up for tonight. Guys, when you get over to J-Blow stream, drop a bunch of Hack the Planets and Happy Hackers in there. Yeah, Hectic is in there. Wait, J-Blow... He did some cybersecurity stuff back in the day. I think he's just chilling mostly. Yeah, that's what we'll do. No, okay. I have decision fatigue. Yeah, we'll go right over to Hectic. Give me a sec. Because Hectic is a pretty fun person. All right, there we go. Got the raid started. All right, we're gonna go right over to Hectic. She's playing Arc Raiders too. So when you get in there, drop a bunch of Hack the Planets and Happy Hackers. I will catch you all tomorrow night. We'll do a little bit more on this MCP server. We're going to see how well Claude either does or falls flat on its face with this spec-driven design. We'll see what happens with it. I'm curious to see the outcome. Because like I said, rapid prototyping of red team tools is super helpful during assessments because you come across all sorts of tech stacks. But basically, that's what I got for you guys. If you're in this cold spell that's hitting, stay warm, stay fresh. And I want you all to remember one very important thing, which is, I love ya. Peace.